Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the PSGL YouTube channel for round number 8 of season 31, where the title fight is getting more exciting by the week. Tonight, the drivers are headed to the Temple of Speed, arguably the most iconic circuits on the F1 calendar. It is, of course, Monza in Italy, and my name is Dan Field. I'll be taking you through the action today, but I'm not alone because I'm being joined by the amazing Jack Cannan. And Jack, are you excited for today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Monza is one that we're all very excited for because it is it's the fastest circuit on the calendar, one of the fastest circuits on the calendar, provides for some brilliant racing over the course of the PSGL seasons that I've done. The last time I did one, ignoring the last time, the first time we did it here, it was a last lap dash to the line at the very first PC season. We all know what happened last year. If you haven't seen it, they actually posted the clip on the PSGL YouTube channel. Make sure to have a look at it. George Morgan having a bit of a rage moment. But it is Italy this evening. It is Monza back once again, and like you mentioned, Dan, title fight is hotting up. There is one single point between Barry Borman and Lucas Blakely heading into this week. Barry just about hanging on. He did receive a post-race penalty after last week, which promoted Lucas, who was about 17, 18 points back, right back into the fray, just 1 point off the back. And not forgetting, Jarno Watmir is now back in this, Dan. 18 points behind Lucas, 19 off the lead. He's not out of it yet.
3 races left to go. You cannot count Jarno Opmeer out. He is still certainly a factor, and it seems like in recent weeks his form has been getting better and better, so I think he's finally beginning to adjust to the game. And we'll have a look, before we get underway with the action, we'll have a look at last week's result, and it was, of course, Lucas Blakely winning the Japanese Grand Prix. Jarno Opmeer was able to snatch second position from Tomek Perejic right at the death of it at the final corner. Tomek ended up coming in third. Marcel Kiefer, who's unfortunately not racing with us this evening, came fourth, and Danny Berejnay ended up in fifth. Brendan Lee finished in sixth, and then Thomas Ronhal, what looked to be a certain win for him, ended up being seventh position. And then Alvaro Caraton came in 8th. 9th for Barry Borman after his penalty. And Aston Martin picked up their first points of the season with Simon Weigang. Let's see how these results affected our drivers' standings. Barry Borman leads the way at the moment on 69 points. And then Lucas Blakely just 1 point back from him on 68. Jarno Opmeer still very much in the title fight with 50 points. If he gets some good results in these next couple of weeks, who knows, come the final race this season, he could be right level pegging with Barry and Lucas. Freddie Rasmussen, after DNFing, he did not add to his points tally in Japan. He's on 41 points, and then Brendan Lee is beginning to catch him in 5th on 34. Marcel Kiefer on 31 points in 6th, and then Danny Berejnay just 1 point off the back from him on 30. Thomas Ronhar in 8th with 26 points, and then Wilson Hughes in 9th with 23. And rounding out the top 10 is Tomek Perejic on 18. Then in the constructors' fight, McLaren are just sailing away at the moment. 137, they can win the title tonight. And Red Bull Racing are in second. Ferrari are in third, just 1 point ahead of Mercedes. And then Alfa Romeo are in fifth. Alpine are in 6th with 23 points. Haas are on 17 and 7th. Williams 16 points in 8th. 9th for AlphaTauri on 10 points. And then Aston Martin finally getting off the mark, and they are on 1 point at the moment. But this race, Jack, is looking to set up what could be, in the next few weeks, the most exciting title fight we have ever had in PSGL history.
Yeah, it really is hot enough to be that. Well, just a single point with 3 rounds to go is really close. And like you mentioned, McLaren, they've been obviously the class of the field this season in the Constructors' Championship, especially. Now, with my dodgy maths, don't take this for accurate, but we think if they're 57 or 58 points in front by the end of tonight, they have got the Constructors' title wrapped up by the end of today. So they are 65 ahead at the moment, so it's looking very good for them going into this one. I think they just need to get the cars across the line, really. Red Bull behind, of course. Freddie is here this evening, and no Marcel Kiefer tonight, which actually ends his points scoring streak. He scored points in every single round so far. There's only one other driver who's done that so far this season, and that is Barry Borman. He can continue that this evening. And I was obviously having a look at the standings coming into here as well. There has only been one round that we haven't had a McLaren winning, and it was Jarno Watmir in the at the US Grand Prix. It's one of the most dominant seasons from a constructor since we've obviously Mercedes in the first season as well. But even just to see that the only other driver who's won is Jarno Watmir, the rest have all been McLarens. I mean, it's quite something.
It really is. I mean, McLaren have just been so strong this season. Lucas Blakely and Barry Borman really setting themselves up nicely for the upcoming F1 esports season. I hope that those two could be fighting it out on circuit once that begins, and hopefully Jarno Watmir can also be involved in that as well. And there's so many other drivers that I could go on all night about listing and seeing who is at the very top. Just talk about some of the reserves coming in today. We've got Liam Parnell filling in for Marcel Kiefer. Both Aston Martin drivers are out. That's Simon Weigang and John Evans. They are being replaced by Michael Romanidis and Samuel Bayan. Then both Williams are also out as well. We've got Thomas Ronhoff filling in for Alvaro Carreton, and then Alfie Butcher filling in for Daniele Haddad in that Williams seat. So we've got still a very high strength grid, but we do have a few reserves on the order tonight, and someone who I'm really looking forward to seeing is Alfie Butcher, the young upcoming talent in the F1 esports scene. He's been so consistent, so strong in F2 this season that I'm really glad that he's getting the chance to fight it out with the big dogs in F1.
Yeah, it's great. You've got the up and comers in Williams at the moment. You've got Thomas Ronhar, who has now got the most pole positions this season as a reserve, and Alfie Butcher, obviously, as you mentioned, really doing incredible jobs in F2, and should be able to put on a good performance here in Williams. There's no pressure as well. Of course, he's not fighting for any championship, just coming in as a reserve, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Liam Parnell as well in at Red Bull to see how he can get on alongside his teammate Freddie Rasmussen. Countdown has begun in the lobby. We had a short delay there, but we are getting underway in about 20 seconds time. And of course, full qualifying as per usual, Q1, Q2, Q3 coming up for you. And we will wait and see how this is going to end. Monza is going to be probably, we know qualifying has been close. Japan was one of the closest we've seen. I reckon this is going to be even closer around here, Dan.
Absolutely. I mean, you're taking this circuit mostly at full throttle, so there's not really too many places to gain time unless you're just running the lowest wings possible. So it's going to be certainly interesting to see how the drivers get on this evening. We are about to head into Q1. It's going to be 18 minutes to decide the top 15 who will be advancing into the next session, and then the bottom 5, they'll be locked into that position for the start of the race. We'll join you down on circuit in just a moment after a quick word from our title sponsors at GT Omega. And so now we are just loading into the lobby, waiting on Samuel Bayan, the reserve driver, of course, filling in for the Aston Martin, in the Aston Martin seat. Got all the drivers you can see in the lobby at the moment. And what can we say about this grid? It is just completely stacked, but here you can see loading is complete. So we're about to see the weather conditions, and it is expectedly nice and sunny down in Monza. So we're going to have some hot track conditions, and the drivers are going to be going at blistering pace today.
Yeah, you would think so, but expect these first few minutes to be, well, the usual. We've got three certainties in life. We've got death, we've got taxes, and we've got drivers doing runs in Q1 on intermediate tyres. Let's see who'll be the first to do that around Monza. So obviously we have seen that basically at every race now, where they use the intermediate tyres instead of a set of dry tyres. The Ferraris at their home circuit is on their way out for their first run around Monza, and it is Brendan Lee for the Scuderia, of course, himself, and Fabrizio Donoso representing the Tifosi today. And let's see if they can pull a good result here in Italy. But getting everyone out onto the circuit in a few minutes' time. But for now, it's a full Ferrari lineup. There we go. The 360s are back, Dan.
I'm glad to see them. I know that Brendan Lee probably knows that we're watching him, given that he is the first out on circuit. We always have to look at who comes out onto the track first. So Brendan Lee giving us his signature burnout, or it's not really a burnout, just a donut randomly. I hope he does it on the formation lap today, because I think that the most recent update has actually fixed the formation lap issues. I need some confirmation from that in the live chat, and just so we actually know if there is a formation lap going on today, because we wouldn't want a repeat of what happened. And there it is, Brendan Lee going again for his little spins. But we wouldn't want a repeat of what happened in Mexico, and they've only fixed offline. Okay, so I guess we're not going to have the formation lap this evening, and so we're going to get right into the action, which is a shame, because we're not going to see Brendan Lee spins on the grid.
No, it's always entertaining to see him do that. I think he did it at Silverstone, I think it was, where he did a 360 going up to the grid, or Austria, one of the two, where he did a full donut to warm his tyres up before pulling it into the grid box. But he's providing us some entertainment always. So let's see if we get one on the run down towards the last corner here. I don't think we are, but he's going to go on a lap. Anyways, but we're happy. Life is complete. We've had some Brendan Lee donuts to entertain ourselves today and keep the Tifosi on their feet in some way. Let's see if they can get on their feet for something else here. But as they come around, obviously, he's going to probably peel into the pit lane just to finish off the lap and then box into this. Now, we should mention as well, you did see Tommy Pratchett retiring. That is because he has got a qualifying ban this week for track extending, we believe, in qualifying last week. So he is going to be starting from the back of the grid, which is not ideal, especially around Monza, Dan.
Yep, and he, of course, is just allowed to do a installation lap and just make sure that his wheel and his force feedback is all set up correctly. And so he is not going to be partaking in qualifying. So we're only going to be losing, actually, the bottom four out of this session. Brendan Lee came into the pit lane at the end of his intermediate run, but we have got Freddie Rasmussen, a driver who is slipping out of the title fight, unfortunately. And I think if he has a bad race today, it's going to be the final nail in the coffin. He's on 41 points at the moment, so he's a full, 29 off the back of what Barry Burman has got at the moment. So it's not looking good for the Dane as he sheepishly gets his way through Ascari, pushing as best he can on the set of the intermediates. It's not really great, obviously, great grip through there, but he is gonna, I'd imagine, complete this lap or just peel off into the pit lane, as he's gonna almost do a little drift. I think that would have been a nice little drift through Parabolica, but I think it actually might have a new name now. As to cross the line, Freddie Rasmussen, 1 minute 22.599. Expect much quicker times than what we've seen there.
Yeah, it is. I remember the last corner has got a new name. If anyone in the chat can remind us what it is, that would be great. But we've just still has the Parabolica in my head for that one. But it was changed only recently for there as well. But Freddie Rasmussen giving us a drift show around the final corner, and we'll be able to see. There we go, Curva Alboreto. That's it.
Yeah.
That was after Michele Alboreto. So thank you very much to whoever sent that in, Jess and all those who are keeping an eye on us today. So Curva Alboreto is the last corner name compared to the Parabolica, but it still has that musical sounding name. So I think it's a decent name for the final corner. But Parabolica is still ingrained in our brain from everything. But now Samuel Bain, he's out on the soft tires. That's quite early compared to what we're used to, but he is on a push lap at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we normally see drivers come out around about the 10-minute mark on a set of the slick tyres. So Samuel Bain just beating the crowd at the moment. He's coming underneath the old circuit, which of course was the oval layout. He's headed towards Ascari now. The very tricky chicane is very easy to run ever so slightly wide out of there and invalidate your lap. And I love the corner names around this track. He's about to head to Alboreto, and I think I like it just as much as Parabolica, so I'm not too upset with that change. As in towards now the final corner, off the exit, on the power early. What's he going to do as he heads up towards the line, hugging the inside. Cross it now. It is a 1 minute 19 flat from Samuel Beam. We'll see how that stacks up with all the other drivers. He's the only man out on track at the moment, but I'd imagine in the next few minutes we're going to see a flurry of cars dashing to exit the pit lane and then get their initial runs in Q1 over and done with. But for the time being, with 12 minutes to go, we're a third of the way through. Samuel Bean leading the order with Frederick Rasmussen in P2.
Yeah, so it is all quiet out here in Monza, but I would imagine, well, it happened last week exactly as I thought, but let's see if they change it. But around the 10-minute mark, it sort of seems to be let's go moment for everybody as Fabrizio Donoso comes out of the pit lane. He decides to go a little bit earlier than most, so he's out on the soft compound tyre. For Fabrizio, the other Ferrari, who we have seen this season, and as we know, F1 Esports is edging closer and closer and closer. So there's a lot of prep going in for F1 Esports when you compare it to PSGL. Obviously, the focus is going to be on the event, which is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So huge amounts of prep going in for that, but drivers still remaining committed for their league racing. But we can be sure at this moment now, just about a couple of weeks until F1 Esports starts, you can be sure there's a lot of sandbagging going on.
Oh yeah, these drivers do not want to show their pace just quite yet. So I'd imagine that drivers that we're normally seeing right at the top of the order, not really performing at their best in PSGL, I'd imagine they are going to come back, because the level of talent in F1 Esports and the hard work doesn't just deteriorate over the span of one new game. So I wouldn't expect drivers, unless the game just doesn't suit their driving style completely, I'd imagine that they are going to be around about the same pace. So for all the fans worrying about Jarno Opmeer not winning this championship, I think he has got something left in the bag for us, so do not worry all too much as we're watching Fabrizio Donoso headed down towards the first heavy braking zone at the end of the first straight, where we can see plenty of overtakes come race time. But for now, he's just got to nail it, and he's done that nicely. Now flat out through Curva Grande. Got to scrub with the minimum speed, hold the inside line best as possible, and up towards the next chicane. I believe it's Della Roggia. He's about a tenth slower than what Samuel Bain has done. You can see he's flying over that curb. I wonder if he is on that 60 FPS that we've been seeing over Twitter today. Is in towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 now for Fab, the Chilean driver, recently signing with Scuderia Ferrari. He's been a part of that Renault and Alpine team for so long, making the swap to red, and I think it's suiting him very nicely as he heads in towards Ascari now. He's going to take that corner. I don't think he's pushing all too hard at the moment. It seems like he is just limit testing at this point in time, but headed down this back straight and on the run up towards Alboreto. We'll see what time he does by the end of this lap.
Yeah, it's going to be a solid lap from Fabrizio. 347 kilometers an hour on the brakes for turn one. Crazy speed being carried around these brilliant corners. 18.9 for Fabrizio Donoso to go to the top of the order, and just behind him will be one of the AlphaTauris who's beginning the lap. Sebastian Job just beginning his lap. So there's nobody else on a lap apart from Patrick Sipos, who's had to come through Alboreto, but he's invalidated his lap, so that's not going to be any time on the board for him. So Sebastian Job begins his lap. Remember, he was impressive last time out in Japan for AlphaTauri, and let's see if he can deliver around Monza. He's going to have a good bit of traffic to deal with, though. 26-0 in the first sector, in through the now thanks to Twitter, the infamous turn 3 and turn 4 here at the Della Roggia chicane through Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. And got to get on the brakes nicely for Lesmo to carry the speed and don't go out too wide. Huge moment for Sebastian Job. He really likes to drive that car on the rear end, I think is what we've noticed last week. He's really got an oversteery car, but obviously that seems to be a setup thing, but it is very snappy at the rear end, that AlphaTauri.
That was a great save, though, off the exit of Lesmo 2. He just about hung on to that out the exit of that corner there, and I think his time has gone in the bin, but I'd imagine he just looks cool with that. He's still got time in Q1, so I don't think it's the end of the world if this banker lap isn't as great as it might seem, but we'll see what he can do as he peels off into the pit lane, understandably. Up next then we have one of the Red Bull cars they're actually beginning a lap just now. I'm trying to find who is on a push lap at the moment. I think it might be Michael Romanidis, the next one up to cross the line, or is it Wilson Hughes ahead of him? It is indeed the Scotsman. Not having a great race last time out in Japan. It really just did not go his way. I think the safety car also did screw him over ever so slightly. He's about to come up towards the line, and he goes in towards P2. He's got Romanidis in behind him, filling in for one of the Aston Martin drivers. He goes behind his teammate for this evening in towards 4th position. As up next we have one of the Mercedes cars beginning a lap. It's a Haas up next of Matthijs van Erven. This is looking like a competitive lap time from him as he comes up towards the line to cross it now. What's it going to be? Fourth position, a 19.2. So Jack, now we're beginning to see all of the first times coming out on the board. I think Samuel Bain has actually just jumped him. There is Brendan Lee to the top of the order.
Absolutely, Brendan Lee, 18.7. Now we have Barry Borman, championship leader by just a single point. Here he comes to the line now, 18.9, just behind him there, just behind the car of Brendan Lee. That is, as Jarno Wotmir, he's on his lap right now. Danny Moreno just beginning his push lap, getting very, very close to Barry Borman on the way down towards turn 1. There was barely a car's width there. Lucas Blakely popping into second for now. Danny Beresne popping into 7th place. And one of the Williams cars coming up next. One of the Alpines, sorry, that was coming in across the start-finish line there. And we have a couple more. Joni Tormala popping into 10th right there as Freddie Rasmussen pops in the 19.019, followed closely by Alfie Butcher, 18.980 up to 4th for the reserve driver. And that'll be another... that'll be the first flurry of laps for now. Anyway, followed by Thomas Ronhar. The pole sitter from last week goes up to second, 18.81 for him. And then the Mercedes of Jarno Wotmir next up to cross the start-finish line goes to 4th, also an 18.9. And then we have a couple more to come across the line. Jake Benham, he's invalidated his time for the moment, but it will be Danny Moreno who will be next up to cross the line. He'll be the last of the runners to set a time apart from Patrick Sipos. So now we'll get our first idea who's going to be in that. Well, we're going to see the bottom 4 now. We know Tomac Parajas is definitely going to be eliminated at the end of this one. Here comes teammate to Jarno Wotmir, Danny Moreno, crossing the line, and he goes to a 19.2 P13 for him. And then we got to wait a little bit for Patrick Sipos. But like we predicted, Dan, it is very, very close for Brendan Lee. Very nicely done. And I would say, you would think he's probably safe with that run.
Yeah, I think he can retire and just forget about Q1. You don't need to come out again because realistically, you just need the top 15. You know, you don't actually gain anything from coming P1 in a session, so there's no real point in burning up another set of tyres just to flex his muscles. As Patrick Sipos comes across the line, he goes in towards 5th position. That brings us towards the end of the first runs of laps. Let's check. Benham is pushing at the moment, but I don't believe he is. Well, we'll have to wait and see what he's doing. No, he's definitely not pushing. He's way off the time at the moment. So the bottom 5 at the moment is Joni Tormala, Liam Parnell, and Sebastian Job, and Jake Benham yet to set lap times. Of course, we saw Benham invalidate on his lap, and Sebastian Job having that miraculous save down at Lesmo 2. If he wasn't able to hold on to that car, he could have been eliminated from the session outright. Drivers at risk at the moment, I would say, is from about 10th downward is where you're in real danger because, in 12th downwards, because Danny Beresne, he's about 2/10 off the back of Samuel Bean, his nearest rival. And that means Matthijs van Erven, Danny Moreno and Michael Romanidis are also in danger, but we are having all the cars come back into the pit lane. We have the first driver venturing out onto the circuit to begin his outlap for his second tour, and it is Michael Romanidis, the reserve driver, I believe making his debut this season. I don't think we've seen him so far, and it's good to see that he is racing with us today.
Absolutely, yeah. Haven't seen Michael Romanidis out on the circuit since, I think, last season. So good to see him back with us in Aston Martin. Normally used to seeing him in Williams colours, but of course he's just filling in this evening for the missing Simon Weigang and John Evans, who's been replaced by Samuel Bain. So let's see if Michael can, if he can produce a good result here. Brendan Lee, he obviously believes he is safe, and you would wager he is. But you would think anyone who's not in the 18s, you'd have to say, is probably on the cusp. But 19.0 for Wilson Hughes currently. It could be very close across the board, though. 18.8 for Thomas Ronhar, just about 600th behind Brendan Lee. Let's see who decides to come out. I would imagine a good few are going to come out. Matthijs van Erven is on his way out as well of the pit lane. There's a flurry of activity in pit lane now. Samuel Bain, he's on his way out. He's on a 19.0. He doesn't believe he's safe. Thomas Ronhar, I think, rightly believes he is also safe as well. Freddie Rasmussen is also coming out again. I believe Danny Moreno is also coming down pit lane as well. So I think your initial thoughts, Dan, seem to be spot on. Everyone from 10th down seems to be making their way out.
I think if you're in the 18s, you are going to be in a strong position. Not many drivers are going to be able to improve all that much and jump you. So I think from around about, I'd say Barry Borman downwards, because I think Butcher and Donoso who are both in the 1 minute 18s. They are quite close to that 19 flat mark, so I think a few drivers can actually trump them, as Michael Romanidis taking too much curb on the inside of De La Roggia invalidates his lap time. If he's fueled up the car, he'll have time to go once again, so I don't think it's too much of an issue for him that he has messed up this time by. I believe the next driver up to begin their lap is Matthijs van Erven. In that Haas car, he is currently in 13th position, not in a very safe place. Of course, only the bottom 4 at the moment will be eliminated because Tomek Paragic is serving his qualifying ban, so he's automatically in 20th position. But Matthijs van Erven getting his lap underway. Let's pull up the telemetry at the bottom of your screens and see his top speed as he heads towards the first corner. 217 miles per hour at the braking zone. Insane speeds around this circuit, and it's not called the Tempelo speed for nothing as he heads towards now Curva Grande, where he's going to be completely flat through here, riding the curbs on the inside up towards the De La Roggia chicane, where it's very easy to invalidate, hitting your braking zone at the 100-meter mark and then riding over the curbs on the inside, trying to avoid the gravel on the left-hand side off the exit. Currently Van Erven up by 5 hundredths of a second. That's half a tenth at the moment, in towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2 now for the Dutchman. We'll see what he can do as he opens up DRS down this short straight, where he's going to be headed to underneath the old Monza circuit with the oval layout, and he's up by 0.2 of a second. It's looking like a decent enough time for Matthijs van Erven as he heads through Ascari, making no mistake through there. He's on a mission at the moment. He'll be the first one to complete his final run in qualifying, because he heads down towards Alboreto now, and we'll see what he can do. Is off the exit now. He's just got to get it towards the line, try not to spin off the exit, and hugging it towards the inside. Van Erven towards the line now. Where can he go? It is 7th position for the Dutchman.
Yeah, good effort. Sebastian Job next across the line goes to 10th fastest for now, so good effort from him. Next across the line will be Samuel Bain. He goes up to 11th on a 19.003, same time as Wilson Hughes in P12. Wilson Hughes up by half a tenth as well, so there's a couple more to cross the line. Michael Romanidis, he'll be next across the line. See if he can get himself out of the drop zone here. He does. He goes to 14th for now. Next up, Joni Tormala goes up to 8th fastest. He should be safe. As next up now, Danny Beresne, he's safe for now. 1,000th of a second faster than Samuel Bain and Wilson Hughes at the same time. Danny Moreno, can he get himself safe? No, he can't. He's out in Q1 for the second time, I believe, there. Wilson Hughes hops up to P5. Jake Benham, is he safe? No, Jake Benham also out in Q1. Freddie Rasmussen would have survived anyway, but he's going to get a lap across the line to finish out, and he goes to second, 18.7. 7.5. So the bottom 5 then. Danny Moreno out in Q1. Michael Romanidis, Jake Benham, Liam Parnell and Tomek Paragic, who was serving the quali ban. But how about that? There was so little to separate them. 300 was all it was, and Samuel Bain and Danny Beresne separated by 0.001 of a second. But Brendan Lee for Ferrari topping Q1 in Italy.
Brendan Lee, he only set that with his bank of time, so he's looking like he's enjoying life down at Monza. Of course, he with Ferrari, I think he was living in Italy whilst he was with the team, and I'd imagine he's living there right now. And I think I can think of worse places to live than sunny Italy. But your bottom 5 in this session: Danny Moreno, Michael Romanidis, Jake Benham, Liam Parnell, and Tomek Paragic. And again, for Moreno being eliminated in Q1, it's not a good look for him at the moment. In regards to F1 esports coming up, of course he is, however, that there is the potential, Jack, of course you did mention that the sandbags may still be applied at the moment. I just wonder when he might be taking those off, because I really don't think that Danny Moreno, a driver of his caliber, would be this slow headed onto the new game, because he was so strong on F1 2020 and F1 2021. So I think on F1 22 there's just no doubt in my mind that he would be strong. I've just noticed Freddie Rasmussen's helmet. He's got a fish on the top of his car.
Yeah, as you do. Freddie Rasmussen representing the fishes. You know, he got it. I don't know why he's got a fish on his helmet, but fair play. But you can see just in the standings right here, Jarno Watmir, P5 on an 18.9, down to Sebastian Job, 18.9. That is how close it was all the way down. But Brendan Lee, very well done to him, topping Q1 for Ferrari, and Rasmussen behind Blakely, P4. Otmir behind him, and Barry currently P8 in Q1. But obviously it's all about the Q3 positions at the end of Q3. But we know our bottom 5 is, of course, Moreno, Romanidis, Benham, Parnell, and Paradzic. So now Q2 coming up. As we expected, it is close, but Brendan Lee with nearly a 10th advantage going into that one, so he should be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think Brendan Lee is in a great position at the moment. We're seeing some decent competition at the moment at the very top of the order. Normally it's just the two McLarens who are maybe 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, but they are a little bit ways down the order. I think it was like 4th and 7th for the pair of them. I'm just off the top of my head, that's what I'm estimating, but they certainly weren't at the front of the order. That belonged to Brendan Lee and Freddie Rasmussen. We're about to head in towards Q2. We've already got some activity down on the circuit, so I'll bring you over there, and all the drivers, once again we typically see this at the start of Q2, rushing out of the pit lane. The first will be Barry Burmand in his McLaren, and these tyres are going to be scrubbed, I would assume. We'll actually get an onboard shot if we can with the McLaren. You can see they're not the shiniest looking tyres in the world, so yeah, we typically see at the start of the second parts of qualifying, drivers coming out just to set a banker time on a scrubbed set, so they don't waste a fresh set for when they actually want to push later on in the session.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about saving an extra set. The more fresh tyres you have for Q3, the better. The more chance you have at pole position if you can have an extra run on a set of fresh tyres. So the first runs at Q2 normally set on a used set of tyres, so these will be the banker efforts that we will see come in at the very start. So it's important to get them in nonetheless, just in case. Well, there isn't a chance at the moment of rain, but if there was, it's important to get a lap in early on these tyres as well. But I didn't mention, of course, impressive performance by both of the reserves. Of course, Thomas Ronnar, we kind of expected from him now, easily through to Q2. Alfie Butcher, though, straight on the money into Q2 with his Williams car as well. So let's see how far Alfie can get. If he can get himself into Q3, that'll be very, very impressive for the youngster from the UK. Let's see what he's able to do. But Barry Bormand, he'll be leading us across for the first runs on the scrub sets of tyres, and we'll be able to see what sort of top speed he gets out of this. We'll be able to see and spy who's got more top speed than others as he heads down to the braking zone, just getting to 349 kilometers an hour onto the brakes. So it's crazy speed into turn 1. So almost no wing on that car, you could be sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's obscene how fast these cars go nowadays, and I mean, it was unheard of to go like 213, even higher than that, like 220 miles per hour at some points in the past. Even like F1 2017, which my first Formula 1 game, which I actually played the most, that was around about 200 miles per hour top speed. So the cars have gotten a lot quicker. Barry Bromand is just making his way around this lap. There's a reason why we're not getting too excited about these, because they're not going to be at their full potential, given that they are likely on a scrub set of the tyre. But then we always say that, and then they always typically just end up being absolutely blistering lap times. So I'm not going to make that assumption too early. We've got two drivers in the pit lane. Danny Berejnay on his out lap at the moment, so most of the field at the moment are out on circuit. Is through now, the final corner. Barry Bowman goes. What is he going to do for his delta time? Is going to be a 1 minute 19.4, so I can confirm that is a scrub set of the tyres for the Iranian. Then also goes into third. Saipos into third now, because Yoni Tormal has just jumped up into third, and then Freddie Rasmussen taking top honour at the moment. Jan Ortmir up to the line next, and he goes about 200ths of a second quicker than his rival as Matthijs van Erven cross the line. It's going to be P3 for him. We're just seeing all these lap times coming out. They're not too competitive. This is actually slower than what we saw for the cutoff in Q1, so we can expect as the session progresses, we're going to see a lot quicker times as Thomas Ronhar once again proving how much pace he has over one lap. He goes to the top of the order.
Yep, so we can confirm, of course, these are all scrub sets of tyres. 19.1, remember the quickest time in Q1 was an 18.7 for Brendan Lee. And I haven't seen Brendan Lee actually come out of the pits yet. It looks like he may be just going straight out on a set of new tyres, potentially, for Brendan Lee. Danny Berejnay did come out of the pit lane, but came straight back in for that. And Lucas Blakely also did not finish his scrub set run either. So Sebastian Job as well did not come out onto the circuit for his scrub run. But Thomas Ronhaar currently the quickest, actually a Dutch 1-2 at the moment. Thomas Ronhaar in front of Jarno Wotmir, in front of Freddie Rasmussen, and then Matthias van Erven in fourth on the scrub sets of tyres. So obviously not gonna get too excited about the current one. It's all about being in the top 10, of course, and we haven't seen the drivers do runs on a new set of tyres yet, so expect things to get very, very close. The cutoff is going to be thousandths of a second for getting into the top 10. If you can get into the top 10 in Monza, that is a very, very impressive feat in a grid this stacked. As Thomas Ronhaar is the last car to come into the pit lane. It's all quiet in the track at the moment. Nobody's out on the circuit, actually, as they all come back in off their used set of tyres runs, and we'll wait to see who's going to be the first to come out on a set of new tyres. I do see movement in one of the garages. I think that's Patrick Sipos, I think, on his way out of the pit lane for Alpine. We'll wait and see, as there's a flurry of movement now. Lucas Blakely getting ready to come out as well. The AlphaTauri coming down as well. Brendan Lee, though, he's already out onto the circuit on his tyres, and not too sure if those are new just yet, but we'll find out in the lap time.
Yeah, they look quite shiny on Brendan Lee, and he didn't come out for an installation lap, so I think if he waited this long, it's going to be a fresh set of the tyres. Just to give everyone word as well, we are headed into a lobby restart at the end of Q3. That gives us a little bit more time to talk about qualifying once that is over and done with. This is due to the fact that the formation lap has been left on. But of course, we can't run with the formation lap due to the ongoing glitches, which haven't been fixed yet. They've only been fixed for offline mode, and it's quite silly to think about, because surely you could just implement it online as well. But those are the ways that things are at the moment. So we're going to have that lobby restart, and we're going to have some more time to talk about qualifying. We're watching Brendan Lee at the moment on his outlap. Of course, this is technically a home Grand Prix for him, given that he's been living in Italy, and he's driving for the Scuderia, and of course the Tifosi come in waves to this circuit. And I love the podium celebrations, especially when a Ferrari driver is on the podium, and more particularly on the top step, because the main straight which he's about to head onto completely floods with fans, and I really do love to see it. But he's headed down the start finish straight now. We'll pull up the telemetry at the bottom of your screens, and we'll see what speed he's reaching at the braking zone. It's going to be 217 miles per hour as Parag just leaving the session. He doesn't need to be in here anymore, as now in towards Curva Grande goes Brendan Lee, flat out through here, riding on the curves, and we'll see what he can do in towards the Delarogia chicane, where drivers may be invalidating their times. As what can he do through here? He's taken that very nicely indeed. Probably the most optimal run I've seen all day through there. It's in towards now Lesmo 1 and 2. These tricky right-handers. We saw Sebastian Job almost have a spin off the exit of Lesmo 2 in Q1, and Brendan Lee is facing no such issues. Down now this short straight underneath the old Monza circuit. Opening up the DRS at the braking zone is going to be about 213 miles per hour, 52.4 through the first two sectors for Brendan Lee. Off the exit now of Ascari, and down this back straight, headed in towards the Alboreto curve, braking at around about the 50-meter mark. And then short shifting his way up the gears in towards 6, getting a slight twitch on the exit, pulling it to the right hand side, and to come across the line, Brendan Lee's first time in Q2. It's a 1 minute 18.816, and that lays down the gauntlet for all the other drivers in behind.
Yeah, Wilson Hughes is popping in behind him on an 18.89, so not too far off at all for him there. Patrick Sipos across the line is invalidated. That would have been an 18.95. Which would have put in P3. Lucas Blakely, though, straight away, 18.739. 200s quicker than what Brendan Lee managed in Q1. So now it's getting serious around here. Sebastian Job, he's about to end his lap. He didn't get a good lap in there. As Alfie Butcher, he's invalidated, as too has Danny Beresne. So plenty of invalidations. The guys are pushing the limits more. Freddie Rasmussen crossing the line now, goes to second, 18.76, just behind Lucas Blakely. Also on another lap now is Jarno Wotmir. He's about to come through in just a few moments' time. So popping into fourth. One of the Hasses coming through, Matthias van Erven, 18.904. Here comes Jarno Wotmir then. He's P9. He needs an improvement here, and he should get one, crossing the line to go to the top. 18.70 for Jarno Wotmir, popping in front of Lucas Blakely for the moment. Fastest in Q2. for now. So that's encouraging for him especially. And 18.7, a low 18.7. Will that be safe? You would think so, but it is so close. Right now, the cutoff, Yanni Tormala at 19.5, but that is not a representative time. And especially guys like Thomas Ronhar and all those guys, they've not set representative times yet. And Danny Berezne, Alfie Butcher, Sebastian Job, all those guys invalidated their runs, as had two at Patrick Sipos. He was an 18.95, would have put him P9 and demoted Yanni Tormala out of the top 10. But it is very tight across the board, but it's not over yet because we still haven't seen representative times from the bottom 5 yet.
Absolutely, Sebastian Job is in that final sector. I don't think he's on a very quick time, so I think he'll be peeling off back into the pit lane. Currently in that drop zone, he's being joined by Patrick Sipos, Samuel Bain, Alfie Butcher and Danny Berejne. The bottom two have yet to set lap times, and if they're on strong runs, then they'll put Ronhar and Tormala into that drop zone, but neither of those guys also have runs on a fresh set of the tyres, so we are still waiting for some lap times to come out to really see where the pace lies with these drivers. But at the moment, it is the Flying Dutchman, Jarno Opmeer, leading the way in Q2 at the moment. I'd have it to say that he is actually safe with that time. He's quicker than what Brendan Lee did in the first session, and he retired after his banker, so I think Jarno Opmeer can safely come into the pit lane knowing that he can go in towards the next session, but maybe I can be proved wrong. We'll have to wait and see as he peels off into the pits with 4 minutes left to go at the moment. The top 3 are as follows: Jarno Opmeer leading Lucas Blakely and Frederick Rasmussen in P2. The current gaps between all the drivers at the moment, separating P1 and P3, is just half a tenth of a second. The top 10, actually the top 8, separated by just under 2/10, so very tight margins here in PSGL. We got some activity down at the pit lane. It's one of the Williams cars coming out of the pit lane. It is indeed Alfie Butcher making his way out onto the circuit, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. He's made it through in his first F1 race. He's made it through to Q2, and I'd love to see this young guy in towards Q3.
It'd be a great story, wouldn't it, to just show up and hop into Q3. But it'll be a hard task. It's probably the toughest track to do that on. The closest qualifying gaps on the calendar. And let's see if he can do it, though. He seems to had a good pace in Q1. Let's see if he can carry it forward into Q2. But interesting to see how this will end, of course. We have a number of guys all on an 18.8. Brendan Lee, Richard and also Barry Borman. You would think Barry Borman would you think he's not quite safe there, is he? He's coming out again, 18.836 for him at the moment, P6. So if any improvements, and he's obviously coming out to go again. So a little bit of pressure on the shoulders of Barry Borman. Now championship leader by 1 point. He needs to make sure he improves on this run on the next 18.83, of course, not a slow time by any stretch of the imagination, but again, he's a 10th behind his teammate. So let's see if he can bring that forward. And we know how close they are on pace. We've seen it so many times. So you would imagine that Barry has got that 10th in hand just to make sure that he gets himself safely through into Q3 or to preserve his championship lead heading into the next round. And of course, Jarno, this is a crucial race for him. He needs this. He basically needs this win to get himself really back into the championship fight. But again, anything can happen. Lucas Blakely out on the circuit as well. Still just waiting to see if we have anybody else coming out. Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen, no sign of them moving just yet. But Alfie Butcher, he's on his lap right now, 26.045 in the first sector. Very competitive. Up and over those curves in turn 4, up towards Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Let's see if this youngster can get himself into Q3. This would be a great effort if he can. Through Lesmo 1, all the way out onto the curve, into Lesmo 2. We'll see if he's on we won't be able to gauge an improvement, and he's backed out of it. He's going to have to go again. Not happy with it, but he has got time.
Yeah, I think he might have messed up down at the Belarusia chicane, where he went over that second curb a bit too heavy, got slightly airborne, and I think that might have mucked up his run, but he is going to back off here. Fabrizio Donoso is the closest on a lap, but he is also invalid, so that leaves Thomas Ronhar, the next one out on circuit, with a minute left to go in qualifying. He's headed through Lesmo 2 now, and off the exit he might be able to pick up a slight slipstream from Fabrizio Donoso. Not on this straight, but maybe on the next one. Actually, as I say that, the Chilean peels off to the left-hand side as Ronhar up by 1/10 on his previous best time. We'll see if he can find some more in that final sector, as now headed down this back straight. We'll see the telemetry. He's already above 200 miles per hour as he heads now down in towards Alboreto, braking at the 50-meter mark and then getting on the power as early as possible, hugging it towards the right-hand side of the track. Where can Thomas Ronhaar go? Is he going to go to the top? He does indeed. He goes into P2 for the time being. We'll see who is able to contest him. Up next then, we have Brendan Lee on his time lap. Of course, at the moment on a 1 minute 18.816. That was his banker in this session. Now up towards the line. Where can he go? He goes into third position, jumping Lucas Blakely and Freddie Rasmussen, being relegated once again and again now by Patrick Sipos, who's come up towards the line. We've got Barry Borman headed to the line next as Sebastian Job goes to the top of the order. A great effort from him. Barry Borman only in 9th position. That is not very convincing from the Iranian. Yoni Tormala into the pit lane. We've got Danny Berejney headed up towards the line. Where can he go? He goes into 2nd. Borman now down into 9th position. We have an Alpine spun at the final corner. I believe that is Wilson Hughes. He is out of qualifying. Up next is Alfie Butcher. Can he be the man to put Fabrizio Donoso out of this session for the time being? Is now up towards the line. Where can the young guy go? Oh, it's only 13th. He's eliminated from this session. Matthijs van Erven in towards the pit lane. He is also out of qualifying, which leaves Samuel Bain and Fabrizio Donoso on their timed run. Samuel Bain invalidates on his lap time. He is out, which means the bottom 5 is confirmed as Fabrizio Donoso is headed in towards now the final corner. Can he get into that top? Well, can he jump anyone else in this session? Or is he going to be the man who was at risk? I think he knows he's done enough, so he's just going to come back into the pit lane. That confirms Q2, Wilson Hughes, Matthijs van Erven, Alfie Butcher, Joni Tormala and Samuel Bain all out of qualifying. And it was looking a bit scary there for Barry Bormand.
Yeah, I would have been breathing a bit heavy there. Barry Borman just getting through. And I think just thanks to Wilson Hughes losing the rear end through the final corner, spinning, and then wasn't able to improve because he was doing enough to get through. And as well, Joni Tormala invalidating his run as well. So Barry safely through into Q3, thankfully for him. But how about Sebastian Job topping Q2? And he did this last week, didn't he? He did exactly the same thing last week in Q2, topping Q1 by 0.001 a thousandth of a second in front of Danny Berejney. Jan Ortmer goes through, Thomas Ronhaar goes through again, Brendan Lee, Lucas Blakely, Patrick Sipos, good effort to get through to Q3 as well. Freddie Rasmussen, Barry Borman and Fabrizio Donoso all get through. But Jan Ortmer in P3 on an 18.7, Barry Borman on an 18.7 as well. The margins were fine. It was an 18.8, the cutoff. But Sebastian Job, once again, impressive and tops to Q2 for the second week running.
Absolutely, he's got to be happy about that to be headed in towards Q3. I hope he can have a better race than he did last week. He actually got a penalty added to his race time after a collision with Wilson Hughes. But there he is, your confirmation of your Q2 results. Sebastian Job leading the way with Danny Berejney in 2nd, Jan Ortmer 3rd, 4th for Thomas Ronhaar, 5th for Brendan Lee and Lucas Blakely in 6th. That top 7 actually, Patrick Sipos in that position, separated by 1/10. Freddie Rasmussen in 8th, 9th for Bormand, Donoso in 10th, and then your bottom 5 in this session is Wilson Hughes, Matthijs van Erven, Alfie Butcher, Joni Tormala and Samuel Bain. But that brings us now, Jack, to the end of Q2. The top 10 is secure, and we're going to see who's going to be scrapping out for pole position. Early predictions for this session. Who are you going for to take pole?
I think it's a tough one to call this week because it's not as clear cut as it sort of was last time. I went with Thomas Ronhaar last time and I was correct, but I really couldn't tell you who's going to be on pole position. But I think I've got a feeling. I've got a little feeling it could be Danny Berejney. I think he's got something else in hand, a little bit more. It'd be nice to see Danny Berejney on pole position, but again, it's all up to fate, really. Who's going to pull out those last few thousandths of a second is going to be so tight. As far as I know, Dan, Wilson Hughes getting eliminated. That's the first time he's not made Q3 this season. So a shame for him with a small mistake in the final corner.
Yeah, real shame for Wilson Hughes. He is starting 11th in this race. We've got Q3 on the way. 12 minutes to decide who is going to be taking pole position. We will join you in on trackside after a quick word from our title sponsors at GT Omega. So we'll see you in a moment's time. So here we are, back trackside for Q3 with the top 10 drivers in qualifying so far are fighting it out for pole position this evening. We're watching the two drivers on an outlap at the moment. They were the first two to jump the gun. It's Patrick Saipos and Jarno Otmir. And Jack, Jarno Otmir is the man we need to talk about because he is still in this championship fight. He's the only driver this season who's won a race that is not a McLaren driver. So he's certainly gone under the radar in recent weeks, and he's also come under a lot of criticism, but I think now he's finally picking up form, and I'd love to see this man at the top of Q3.
Absolutely, I think many would to see the struggles he's had, and this is really the first time, Dan, that we've sort of seen him have the pace for pole position here. That he's got a shot at it. Let's see if he can do that. Of course, this is a very crucial race for his championship hopes. He's 18 points off of Lucas Blakely, 19 points off the championship lead, so he needs a big scoring day today. And right now, he looks like the faster of Lucas Blakely and Barry Boorman at the moment. Barry just about getting through into Q3 this time, so let's see if it works out for him. Of course, these first runs, these will be banker runs just to make sure that that they get a time on the board, as Patrick Sipos is on his way through the De La Roggia chicane over those curves. Let's see who can come out on top. Sebastian Job, though, once again, if you just missed Q2, topping Q2 for the second week running, and let's see if he can carry that pace forward. Didn't quite get it together in Q3 last week. Let's see if it happens for him this week. But some confidence to be taken. Danny Beresnay, though, only 1,000 off of him. It was an 18.6 was the Q3 time. So let's see if anybody can break into those 18.5s for pole position. But so let's see what the first time is going to be on these banker runs. Patrick Sipos up towards Curva Alboreto on his timed run, and see what he's able to do in his Alpine. Full-time driver for Alpine Esports crossing the line now on a 19.181. So those are, you would say, as a scrub tires, but Jarno Otmir straight out of the bag, 18.65. He goes to the top, and those are certainly not scrub tires.
Yeah, great lap there from Jarno Otmir, and very convincing so far in this qualifying session. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you think is going to take pole position, and we'll read out some of your answers. I can already see all 2,800 viewers at the moment enjoying the show, and there's a lot of support going on for Jarno Otmir. The Mango Lord says Jarno. We've got Jarell Olivers saying Thomas Ronhar. So many picks for Jarno Otmir to take pole position, and you'd have to agree with how he's been so far in qualifying. I'm seeing picks as well for Lucas Blakely. I'm not seeing too much support for Barry Boorman. I would like to see some picks for him. At the moment, we're watching Sebastian Job, who topped Q2, by the way, so don't count this man out as well. He certainly goes under the radar by the PSGL fans as he's in towards now the final sector. Through the Ascari chicane he goes. It's a 52.5 through here, and Jack, well, let's see what we can expect from Sebastian Job.
Yeah, he's been impressive in Q2. He's starting to find his form now. Here comes Sebastian Job. Can he get a first pole position in PSGL? Coming around the curve at Alboreto up towards the start-finish line. The man who topped Q2. Can he top Q3? Not quite 19.083, but we know he can go quicker than that. So let's see what he's able to do. Danny Beresnay on his time lap now as well. Rasmussen has invalidated his run. Brendan Lee, though, he's on a time lap as well, the man who topped Q1. Let's not count out the Ferraris, both of them through to Q3 this week. Let's see if they can make something of it. Thomas Ronhar as well, the man who's taken pole 3 times this season, the man who has the most pole positions so far in PSGL this season. Let's see what he's able to do. If he can get himself a 4th pole position, he did it out of nowhere last week. See if he's able to do it this time. Let's keep an eye on Brendan Lee as he comes up towards Curva Alboreto. Chucks it in, trying to find that apex, feathering the throttle nicely all the way out to the left-hand side, back down for the shortest run to the line. Here comes the Ferrari of Brendan Lee. What can he do? Goes to the top, 18.5. There we go. Brendan Lee for Ferrari tops Q3, takes provisional pole position by nearly 1/10 of a second. So Brendan Lee looks like a real shot for pole here.
He's laying down the gauntlet at the moment, and he's gone just under 1/10 quicker than Jarno Otmir. He's got to be pleased with that lap time. We're watching Danny Berejnay up next. Behind him is the two McLaren drivers of Barry Burman and Lucas Blakely. So we'll see now what the Hungarian can do as he comes to the line. I believe that's a scrub set of the tyres. Lucas Blakely is up next. The Scot in towards now the start-finish line. It's an 18.7. Barry Burman, his teammate, is about to cross the line next, and that is a very competitive time from him there. Just a mere, 500ths off the back of what Brendan Lee has done. Sorry, 5,000ths off the back of what Brendan Lee has done so far. So he's got to be very pleased with how that lap time has turned out. Thomas Ronhan not pushing at the moment. I think he's made a mistake on his lap, so I'd imagine he's going to come into the pits, or he's actually going to go for a second lap in a row. Freddie Rasmussen is on a push lap at the moment, but he is blinking on the ERS, so I don't think it's going to be the best time, because if he hasn't got the ERS power to power down this back straight, he's not really going to be in a competitive position. So I think that brings us, Jack, to the end of the first runs in Q3. Brendan Lee leading the way from Barry Burman in P2, separated by 0.05 of a second. Jan Otmar is on an outlap, and he's actually just beginning his second run in this session. I wonder how he'll stack up in comparison to the two at the top of the order.
Be interested to see, has he got a 10th, has he got more in the tank for Jan Otmar. Just to point out, I did notice that Thomas Ronhar spun on his lap through Ascari, so he's not been able to finish that run, so he across the line, gets time on the board nonetheless. Rasmussen invalidated. Has Jan Otmar got more pace? Let's see as he comes around Curva Grande. He's got basically the track to himself, nobody around him, comes up to the first part. He's 0.08 of a second down on his time there, so not quite getting the run through the first chicane that he would have liked. Perhaps just getting an extra run just to make sure, get himself maybe set for a final run on his tires. Let's see what he's able to do though. He's just getting himself set now, heading down towards Ascari with the DRS open on the Mercedes. Nobody else out on the circuit except for Thomas Ronhar is on his way into the pits, but now he finds a 10th in the middle sector, almost a 10th, 900ths up in the middle sector for Jan Otmar. Is this the lap? Is this the one that puts him to the top here in Italy into Curva Alboreto? Nobody else on the circuit now, spotting the braking for the last corner, turns it in nicely, finds that apex on the power, and nice and early, heads to the line now. Can Jan Otmar snatch pole? He decides to dive out of it right at the very last moment. So, but that proves he found nearly a 10th in the middle sector, Dan. So there is time there for Jan Otmar.
I think that's wise from Jan Otmar, because he came out a bit early for that lap, and he would have had, if he crossed the line, 3 minutes left in this session. That wouldn't have been enough time to go on his cool down lap, come back into the pits, get the car serviced, and then go out once again. So I think he was wise to come into the pit lane. We've got some activity down at the moment. It is Brendan Lee, the man currently topping the order at the moment. He's out on circuit for his outlap, and this is what Chris Buxton famously likes to call the Banzai phase. In 3 minutes time, we are going to find out who is on pole position for the Italian Grand Prix. Will it be Brendan Lee? Will it be Barry Burman? Jan Otmar? Maybe Lucas Blakely has a chance in there. Will be another driver in behind at the moment. So much talent on this grid. I cannot wait to find out who's going to be topping the order. Let us know, everyone, who you are supporting in the live chat and who you want to take pole position. Not your necessary predictions. I just want to know where your biases lie. And Jack, at this point in the session, who's going to be topping the way for you?
It's very, very close, isn't it? It's hard to know. I really don't know who to go with here. But it is... I think I am going to go maybe with Barry. I think he's got something. He's got only 5,000 off of Brendan Lee. If there's anyone who's got more pace, it's Barry. You would wager to secure pole position. And this is a pole position he needs. It would be very helpful to him to have and just have that track position going in towards turn one. So let's see if Barry can secure it. But really, that is like very, very strange prediction for me. I really don't know who's going to take pole position. That's the beauty of it. Brendan Lee warming up his tyres for the final run. As you said, Chris Buxton likes to call this the Banzai phase, and it really is, especially around Monza. Just behind him, Freddie Rasmussen getting set for his lap. Everyone's out on the circuit. Brendan Lee for Ferrari. Can he bring them a pole position at home at Monza? Crossing the start-finish line now. The final runs are underway.
Here we go then. 1.5 minutes left in qualifying. All the drivers gearing up for their final laps in Q3 as Brendan Lee hits the first few corners now as he just graces the curbs on the inside and then runs it out wide to take Curva Grande completely flat through here. High speed right-hander right in the curbs on the inside line and then overtaking towards the Dele Roggia chicane, meeting his braking zone at the 100-meter mark, riding over the curbs through the first part and second part. Careful to avoid that gravel trap in towards the outside line, as in towards now Lesmo 1 and 2. This series of quick right-handers where he's going to be able to meet this back straight as he opens up the DRS, headed up towards Ascari now. Let's see what his improvement is through the second sector split. Where can he find himself? He's up by almost half a tenth of a second. We'll have to see what Barry Burman is doing in behind. At the moment, Brendan Lee has Freddie Rasmussen and his teammate Fabrizio Donoso behind him on circuit as he heads up now towards Alboreto, the final braking zone along this circuit, on the power early and shifting up in towards 6th gear, then hugging it towards the right hand side and to cross the line now. Where is Brendan Lee going to find himself? He doesn't improve. Brendan Lee does not find an improvement. Freddie Rasmussen does. A 1 minute 18.414. Donoso also jumping his teammate there, the Dane, currently on provisional pole position. Barry Burman at the moment is up by 0.03 of a second on his previous best lap. The clock has struck zero. Drivers can no longer start a fresh time, as here he is now, the Iranian driver up towards the line, the championship leader. Where can he find himself? He goes on towards the front row of the grid. His teammate Lucas Blakely up by almost 0.2 of a second. He goes in behind his teammate. Third place for the time being. Patrick Sipos finds himself going in towards 6th position. Sebastian Job up next across the line. It's 4th position for the Englishman. Next up, Danny Berejne in his Alfa Romeo. He's not found an improvement. Jarno Otmir now next up. He's finding an improvement. It's only 700 hundredths of a second, but if he's found time in this final sector, we could see the Dutchman on pole as off the exit now, the final corner. Where can Otmir go? He only remains in P8. That's a massive disappointment for him. Ronhar's invalidated on his lap time, which means he is not going to be starting any higher than 10th position, and that means that Frederick Rasmussen leads the way. He starts on pole for the Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah, as he piled it into the wall in Alboreto as celebration.
Oh,
but where did Rasmussen pull that out of? With nobody tipped in for pole, Frederick Rasmussen on pole position for the Italian Grand Prix. And do you know what? I was watching his lap. He sat behind the Ferrari of Brendan Lee and got his slipstream just a little bit, and was allowed just far enough away that it didn't affect him. Brendan Lee, though, lost it all in the final sector. Was only down by 1,000th of a second at the end. Looked like he had the lap together, but didn't quite get it together in the last sector. But Rasmussen just playing it smart. But Barry Burman, he did everything he needed to do. He out-qualified his teammate, and Jarno Otmir just not getting it together in that final lap of qualifying. 18.582 for him. If he'd improved by just half a tenth, could have been right behind Lucas Blakely, a job ahead of him. But again, let's point out Sebastian Job, an excellent qualifying, second row of the grid for him.
It's great to see he's finally finding his way to the front of the order in qualifying. I hope he's able to replicate that in the race. And let's have a look at your top 10 in qualifying. Frederick Rasmussen leading the way after a very commanding lap, and very smart in taking that slipstream from Brendan Lee. Barry Burman behind him by almost 1/4 of a tenth, so still very tight margins here in PSGL F1. Lucas Blakely in P3, starting alongside him is Sebastian Job. Then Fabrizio Donoso starting on row 3. It's actually an all Ferrari row number 3, as it's Donoso leading Brendan Lee, Patrick Sipos 7th, 8th for Jarno Otmir. Gotta say, a disappointing end to qualifying for the Dutchman. Then Danny Berejne in P9 and P10 for Thomas Ronhard, not being able to get a representative lap time on the board. But now, everyone, that brings us to the end of qualifying. We are having a quick lobby restart due to the fact that the formation lap was left on. Of course, that causes issues on the F1 22 game with tyre attempts and such. So we are having a quick lobby restart. But Jack, that gives us a lot more time to talk about this qualifying session.
Yeah, it really does. It was an interesting qualifying session, I have to say. It was... who I thought was going to be on pole was absolutely not Frederick Rasmussen, even though we all know how quick he is. But he pulled the lap out right when he needed to. Barry Burman so close to pole position. It was an 18.41, I think it was, for Freddie Rasmussen when he came out with that lap at the very, very end. I was surprised with Brendan Lee. I thought he had enough in hand just to do that. I think even with his improvement, I don't think it would have been quite enough. I think it would have been probably third on the grid for Brendan Lee, but it was surprising to see him lose all the time he gained in the final sector. He was half a tenth up and lost it all seemingly in the final corner and before. And I think perhaps another surprise is Thomas Ronhard. He didn't quite get a lap in there, did he?
No, Thomas Ronhard just wasn't able to set a time on the board, and of course he's taken the most pole positions so far this season. He's not got a very great conversion rate because he's not been able to win so far this season. It's going to be difficult from 10th position today. And of course, he is filling in for one of the Williams drivers, that being Alvaro Carreton. His teammate Alfie Butcher, I think, is another one that we have to talk about because he has done exceptionally well on his F1 debut at being such a young age. I believe he's not even old enough to be in F1 esports at the moment, but this is a driver that is certainly setting up his future very, very well, being able to out-qualify some legends of F1 esports at the moment and some just insanely talented drivers. I think it's got to be a very, very good look for League Racing, the fact that these young talents can come up through the ranks and be able to fight with the F1 esports guys.
Yeah, it is really impressive. This is what we like about PSGL, is we can get guys like Alfie Butcher in who aren't even old enough to compete in esports yet, and are able to go against the fast guys and see how they stack up. And he's really, really shown what he can do. Getting himself through to Q2, especially at Monza, was a really solid effort, and qualifying some really quick guys in the margin as well. So let's see what the race brings. Of course, no formation lap because the glitch has not yet been fixed for online. It has been for offline. But we will be running with no formation lap, so we'll be straight into the race. So turn 1 is going to be interesting because there's absolutely no way to warm up the tyres before you get towards turn 1, and it is probably the tightest turn 1 on the calendar as well. So it's going to be fun to watch. So Barry is obviously going to be aiming down the inside on our pole sitter. So let's see what he's able to do. But of course, Barry out-qualifying Lucas, first of all, is very important. Lucas starting behind in P3. Now, Jarnos is starting up in P8. So let's see if he's able to make something of this. Of course, the safety car worked to his advantage last time out in Japan. Let's see what can work for him this week. And of course, up in P8, it's still points at the end of the day, and anything can happen during the race. We saw that last time.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point that you bring up about the turn 1 and not being able to get the tyres up to temperature. I'm actually very worried for 20 cars piling it in to one of the heaviest braking zones on the Formula 1 calendar. That's certainly going to be scary, and it's certainly going to be a sight to see. We've got 2,965 people watching at the moment. I saw that was almost 4,000 at the end of qualifying, and I hope you're all enjoying the stream so far. Let us know where you're watching from. Actually, I think it's always fun to know just how global League Racing has become, and I know that there are fans all over the world supporting their favourite drivers in PSGL, and we'll read some of them out. We've got some England in there. We've got Czech Republic as well. Someone's watching in their hot tub. We've got fans from Sweden, from Germany, Mexico, Slovakia, Brazil, Denmark, Italy, Central USA, their living room, India. Oh my word, the chat is going crazy with all these nations that are so far apart being united by League Racing. And Jack, that is one of the beauties of PSGL. It brings the world together.
Yeah, it's brilliant just to see how far-reaching League Racing is, to see all those comments come in from so many corners of the world: Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Nigeria, Romania, Puerto Rico, Botswana, all these different countries that Antarctica as well. I mean, if we've made it that far, that's impressive. But how's the Wi-Fi in Antarctica? Obviously, it's good enough to watch League Racing, I'm sure. So we're waiting to see now. I see a couple of Ireland's in there. We're welcome. But yeah, plenty. Worldwide, we're global, it seems, here in League Racing. We're just waiting for one driver to choose their car. That's why the delay is taking so long. The lobby's ready. I think we're just waiting on Brendan Lee to actually select that he's driving a Ferrari. So that's all we're waiting on. Everyone else is in the lobby. I'm obviously waiting for the grid to be set as well. Matthias van Erven, he's got the task of making sure that the grid is correct for the race. He's got to put Tommy Project in last, of course. Got to make sure that all the grid, everyone starts in their correct positions. And obviously got to make sure Freddie Rasmussen starts on pole position. Let's see if Freddie can get a win under his belt this season, of course. He hasn't quite had the season. He hasn't quite had the season yet, but he is still P4 in the standings, just behind Jarno Watmir, of course. So a win today would certainly be beneficial to him. He's got an outside chance at the title, but he needs an absolute disaster from everyone in front of him for that to happen. But nice to see Freddie. We know up at the top. We know he's quick no matter what sim you put him on. But he does do that and pulls pole laps out of nowhere when no one thinks he's going to do it.
Of course, Freddie Rasmussen, well, he's the Formula E champion in some series, and he was racing against Jarno Opmeer, so he's fast anywhere he goes, and I think just F1 is sort of his forte. And you're right about him pulling out formation laps, pulling out pole laps out of nowhere. We are about to get ready to head underway. We have 27 laps of the Italian Grand Prix at the Temple of Speed in Monza, and I can confirm just by looking in the lobby, it's going to be nice and sunny here. We're not having any formation laps, so we're going to get right into the action. And Jack, just describe how you're feeling before we head into this one.
Yeah, I'm feeling very excited. Very, very excited. When we have Barry, when we have Lucas, all up at the front end, Freddie Rasmussen being the cork in the bottle, and making this a really interesting title fight. 1 point, remember, one single point is all that separates Barry and Lucas heading into this round. And Jarno, of course, 19 points off the back of Barry. So let's see if he can pull something together. He starts P8 today, so much better qualifying than what he's had over the course of the past few races. But as he said, very, very nice and sunny here. But this is going to be a very entertaining race, I think, from start to finish. At the start of the race, of course, we know it's going to be a DRS train anyway, but expect the pit stops to really kick stuff off here. But let's see, can Barry extend the lead, or will Lucas take the lead in the championship for the second time?
It's very tight between the two McLaren drivers, just separated by 1 point in the championship at the moment. So unless they finish P9 and P10, they're pretty much, I guess, just next to each other on circuit. Whoever finishes ahead will be taking the championship lead heading in towards the final rounds. Jarno Opmeer also still has an outside chance in this championship. He's 19 points back from Barry Burmand at the moment in the lead. So you can't count him out wherever you go. I mean, we saw him last season come out of nowhere, just win 5 races in a row or something. Maybe he can win the last 3 races in a row. We'll have to wait and see, but you can see, everyone, that we are about to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. We'll be heading grid side, and we'll get ready for the 5 red lights as we're just loading in now. Everyone, get ready for this one, because the lights are coming on here for the Italian Grand Prix. 5 red lights. And we are underway, and it looks to be a good start for Freddie Rasmussen as they head down towards the first corner. He gets the full car length ahead of Barry, and actually Lucas Blakeney is going to be peeling towards the outside line as they pile in towards the first corner. The two McLarens run side by side. Freddie Rasmussen with the dream start at the moment. He's streaking away already at the very top of the order as they pile now down towards Curva Grande. Freddie's already got a second on his nearest rival. It's been the absolute perfect start for the Danish driver. Lucas Blakeney now trying to challenge his teammate Sebastian Job, getting his nose in there in forward position. They're chopping and changing order now down through the Della Roggia chicane at the end of the first sector. Freddie still stretching that advantage, now 9 tenths ahead of Barry Burmand, as we've got some more moves further back behind. Jake Benham trying to make some moves on Samuel Bain as they now exit now Lesmo 2. What a start, Jack, for Freddie Rasmussen.
That is probably the best start I've ever seen at Monza. Freddie Rasmussen sailing through in towards there now. Interesting to note, everybody's on the hard tyres in the top 10 except for Patrick Sipos and Jarno Opmeer. They've got to make the mediums work early on. Brendan Lee getting up behind his teammate now. Here comes Brendan Lee on the inside of Donoso. Donoso backs off, lets him through. Not going to fight it. Tactical swap between the two Ferraris. Brendan Lee moving into P5 there. Rasmussen, though, the absolute perfect start to his day. Across the line he leads from Barry Burman, from Lucas Blakely behind. Blakely tried to go around the outside, but the two of them managed to block the road and stop any potential moves coming through there. But Patrick Sipos, the lead of the medium runners. Jarno Opmeer in behind Danny Beresne, and then Thomas Ronars. A big lunge there from Sipos, nearly collecting Donoso. Fancied it, and do you know what? He wasn't far away from making it, but cost himself time and dropping him back into the clutches of Jarno Opmeer. Here comes Jarno now around Curva Grande up towards the Della Roggia and looks to the inside. Sipos squeezes him right to the edge. Here comes Opmeer now inside at turn 3 into turn 4. Great overtake. Jarno up to P7.
That was nice and committed from the Dutchman. He's now the lead medium runner. He's got to make these tyres work early on. An overtake his rivals as best as he can. Up next for him is Fabrizio Donoso, who's looking like he's sizing up a move on his teammate. Of course, we saw at the end of the first lap Fabrizio get overtaken by Brendan Lee. Is that going to be the same fate for him as they head down towards now the Ascari chicane? Jarno Opmeer in chase at the moment of the two Scuderia Ferrari drivers, running 5th and 6th. It'll be a good day for them in the constructors' battles. There's a car off the road there. I believe that was the AlphaTauri of Joni Tormano. He's just been overtaken by Alfie Butcher and now Matthijs van Erven. So he's had an off there. He's been able to rejoin luckily, and now he's actually still scrapping it out with these guys. This is all the way down in 13th position, but they do not care. They're going to be fighting it out as hard as they want for these positions. They want the glory of an overtake on their nearest rivals as they head down towards the first corner. DRS has been enabled. Here comes Joni on the back of Alfie Butcher, lurching to the inside to defend. Matthijs van Erven had a half look at his teammate, but I believe no moves being made at this point. However, Jack, DRS being enabled, that's going to be crucial for this race.
Yeah, look at that. Freddie's broken away as well. He's the second in front. He's out of DRS and managed to break the DRS and Barry Borman. That is a crucial early move from Freddie Rasmussen to get that done in this phase of the race. That is excellent work from the Dane to make that work. There's not much battery for Barry to use here, and Lucas Blakely as well, he's got plenty in the chart. Sebastian Job hanging on to the rear as well, but now Jarno Opmeer is in behind Fabrizio Donoso. He needs to make this work early on, but that is very impressive from Freddie Rasmussen to break away from DRS at Monza. That doesn't happen, to break away from DRS so early on sheer pace. Excellent work from him there as they come through the Ascari chicane. Now 1.2 seconds, so Blakely and Borman, now they know they can wrap up the constructors title if they stay and finish where they are right now. So they've got to be thinking about that as well. But again, there's a championship fight. These two are championship rivals, Barry and Lucas, 1 point between them. Will Lucas go for the move now? DRS open on the McLaren, heading down towards turn 1. Will Barry fight this at all? No, he won't. Here comes Lucas Blakely then to swap places with his teammate. Into second he goes, and now he can go on the chase of Freddie Rasmussen as Jarno Opmeer now down the inside. He's not made the corner as he into the inside, and a huge switch back for Donoso, and he gets back in front. Big lunge from Opmeer, didn't quite get it done, and he was more than fair there. Donoso was more than fair to him to leave him the room and knew to pull off a beautiful switch back to get it back on Jarno Opmeer.
Yeah, Jarno Opmeer just too hot on the brakes, and that's cost them a lot of time. Now they're 1.1 seconds off the back of Brendan Lee, and that is outside the DRS range, so it's not looking good for the medium runners of Jarno Opmeer and Patrick Saipos, who need the early advantage in the race to cover off the charge from all these hard runners later on in the Grand Prix. So they've got to just work with what they've got for now. They have to overtake Fabrizio Donoso and catch up to the leaders, because this strategy just will not work if they are not close to their rivals. And if Jarno Opmeer has a disastrous race by the end of it and he gets overtaken by anyone and then by everyone, and then Lucas and Barry have a great race, he could be out of championship contention by the end of this evening, and I think he knows that because he's on the back of Fabrizio Donoso. Off the exit now, the final corner, he's got to get the power down early, and here he goes now in the wheel tracks of that Ferrari car. Fabrizio Donoso without any defence down the main straight. He didn't even need the DRS, he was already right on his wheel tracks, and there's the easy move made for him, and Patrick Saipos gonna follow on through. Will he send the move on Jarno Opmeer? I think it's best that the two medium runners do not fight for the time being. So in the space of just one straight and one braking zone, Donoso down 2 places, Opmeer up into 6th, and then Patrick Saipos up into 7th.
Yeah, Jarno having to use a little bit extra battery there just to make sure he gets in the DRS of Brendan Lee as well. So a little bit of more time than he would have liked to have spent there behind the car of Fabrizio Donoso. Donoso holding up Jarno and Patrick as much as he possibly could. So Brendan Lee next up on his list, followed by Sebastian Job, who's hanging in there really nicely in 4th place at the moment. For AlphaTauri, he's still got loads of battery and still sliding that rear end through Lesmo 2 through here as well, as they now will cycle around. The laps are flying by, of course, around here. It's a very short lap around Monza. Freddie Rasmussen still maintaining that gap at 1.2 seconds and doing an excellent job of doing that. Freddie Rasmussen, he's got 27% battery. Lucas Blakely with 17%. Barry recharging behind Lucas Blakely at the moment. Sebastian Joe doing well, 50% charge in his as well. Actually the best of the leaders at the moment on ERS management, currently in 4th place, and he is hanging on to the rear very nicely. Jarno Opmeer now settling in into P6 behind Brendan Lee, but he needs more than that on that medium strategy. Sitting in behind Danny Beresne as well. He fancies a move on Fabrizio Donoso, and Donoso now is cycling down into P9. He's trying to fight Beresne into the braking zone, but the Hungarian makes the move, and he's up into P8 in this race. But it's the biggest gap at the moment is actually between Rasmussen and Blakely, and Rasmussen is managing that gap beautifully at the moment.
We still have a 19-car DRS train at the moment. Freddie Rasmussen has just been able to streak away from everyone else, and he is 1.3 seconds ahead of Lucas Blakely, who is able to overtake Barry Burmand, and we'll have to just wait and see if they're able to close that gap. Let's have a quick look at the position changes in this race. The biggest mover at the moment is Jake Benham. Of course, he's on the set of the medium compound of tyres, so he's been able to overtake all the hard runners in this race, as Samuel Bain is just continuing to fall down the order. Matthijs van Erven, who's had a bad start actually in this race, has just overtaken him. Now I think Danny Moreno is going to try and stick his nose in there in towards the Ascari chicane, but it's a bit difficult for him to do so, as he's all the way down in 17th position. I hope that there are some sandbags on that Mercedes and hiding his true pace for F1 Esports. His teammate at the moment, Jan Ortmeier, may be having to defend from Patrick Saipos down the main straight, because he is only 0.2 of a second off the back of the Dutchman's Mercedes car as he opens up the DRS in the wheel tracks of Jan Ortmeier. Can Patrick Saipos get close enough for the move? If he wanted to go for that overtake, he certainly would have, as he just cools the car by peeling out the slipstream, but no move being made. So on lap number 7, as you said, Jack, the laps are absolutely flying by today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Barry Borman has had a real chance to recharge his battery. He's using Lucas to punch a hole in the air for him. As you can see, Lucas has got basically an empty battery, and Barry nearly 60% recharged. But he has got the problem of Sebastian Job, who's hounding his rear end at the moment into Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, and it's just making things difficult, just making sure that they know that he's there. Alfie Butcher making the move on Joni Tormala into Lesmo 1. Nice move by the youngster. Gets himself through into P13 and continues to move up the order here. But you can see being behind someone is so crucial for that management. But Rasmussen, of course, he hasn't got anyone in his DRS either, so he's got nothing to worry about. But you sort of sense there's going to be a swap between the McLarens here in just a few moments' time. Barry getting very, very close to his teammate's rear end. Give a chance to Lucas Blakely to recharge the battery he's now emptied to help him recharge here, as they just try to chase after Freddie Rasmussen, who's still in full control here. Here comes Barry then on the ERS. Using the battery, using the DRS. Is going to be no contest between the teammates. Championship rivals, though, at the same time. And through goes Barry up to second place. McLaren's working nicely together here in Monza. And it is now normal service resumed as Jake Benham makes another place up. He's just up the inside of Wilson Hughes into the first chicane. No trouble for him there, and he's up into P11. But now you can see, nicely done by the McLarens, and did it just enough that they kept Sebastian Job behind as well.
Yeah, I think that at the moment the two McLaren cars are working together, and they're trying their best to just stay with Freddie Rasmussen. They've just about managed to get beneath that DRS range. If Barry Brumman is within a second, he'll be able to use DRS down this short straight here. Is he going to get it? I don't know if he has it. I've got the awful onboard shot with him, but I don't know. No, he hasn't. So another straight, no DRS for Barry Burman, but now I think he's finally in that position where he can utilise the DRS down the straight. Freddie Rasmussen, huge moment for Rasmussen through Ascari. He lost a lot of time, ran really wide. Don't know how he saved that huge moment, but now it's going to bring him right into the wheel tracks of Barry Burman. Oh dear. For Freddie Rasmussen, that is not what he would like to see, because now he's got Barry Burman on his rear. And he's only 5/10 off the back. I'd imagine he does not want to overtake once he gets to the back of that Red Bull, just because he doesn't really want to lead this race, but he's certainly going to get close enough to be within that range of maybe launching an attack at some point. Patrick Saipos, meanwhile, sitting in behind Jan Ortmeier. He had a half look, and he had to think about going for the overtake. To no avail, though. He's going to remain in P7. These guys just really haven't been able to make the mediums work. They've been able to climb up the order. Actually, not for Patrick Saipos. He started in P7. Ortmeier is up 2 places so far in this race, so he has done well. But Patrick Saipos really seeing no progression on the medium compound of tyre. And if he was on the hards, he'd be on the better strategy for the longevity of the stint. So you have to think, was this the right decision for the Hungarian and the Dutchman? But nevertheless, they are still just going to try and work with what they have got at the moment, but I'd imagine Jack Canan, once they come into the pit lane, it is going to be tricky for them to keep the medium runners in behind.
Yeah, absolutely. It also kind of shows that the pace deficit between the hards and the mediums isn't that large once they get into the race, and it's tricky to overtake once you're in the DRS train. So maybe they'll take some comfort from that once they switch onto the hards. Once they're temperature, they may be able to hold position. But Patrick Sipos looks like the quicker man at the moment, sat in behind Jarno Wotmir. Neither of them are using their battery, though. They're trying to save as much as they can. Sipos, though, looking to the inside, thought he was actually going to come into the pit lane there, but he backed off because he does not want to overtake Wotmir just yet. He's quite content sitting behind. And as well, Barry Borman has now worked his way back into the DRS of Rasmussen and is now going to be able to try and recharge some batteries. So the entire field is still in a DRS train, all the way down to Liam Parnell, who's at the very back of the order. So the whole field is in a Red Bull sandwich. Rasmussen at the top and Liam Parnell at the back, and they're controlling everything at the moment. The McLaren's still sitting pretty in P2 and P3. Sebastian Job still having he had a huge moment. Just as I went on board with him, he is driving that car on the rear end. He's a huge slide moment through the the Della Roger chicane, and he's now dropped into the pressure of Brendan Lee.
Brendan Lee is right on the back of him. I think the Ferrari driver smells some blood in the water. Sebastian Job with a good exit through Lesmo 2. He's going to maintain that position. Brendan Lee doesn't want to overtake this time by, and he's just going to sit in behind, but Brendan Lee knows he is the quicker car. If Sebastian makes those mistakes, he'll be right there for the overtake, and he is just biding his time. Off the exit, Ascari. Patrick Sipos has a good run on Jarno Wotmir, headed down and towards Alboreto. Is he going to go for the dive up the outside? I don't believe so. Jarno Wotmir, though, with the unfavourable line through the corner. Can Sipos get the run through here? Off the exit now, as he's actually diving in towards the pit lane. So, oh dear, and he sped in the pits at 5 seconds added to his race time, and he can get that removed if there was a glitch, but it's a real shame for Patrick. It's going to add a huge dampener to his race. Meanwhile, Parajic also into the box. Interestingly enough, he started on the hard compound of tyre, so I'm intrigued to see what he's going for. It's got to be mediums, and I don't know if they'll be able to make it to the end, though.
Yeah, he's going to go quite long on those mediums from lap 11 to 27. So Tomek Parajic, he obviously had a qualifying ban, so he's going to come out with Patrick Sipos really pushing the limits on the way into the pit lane, and unfortunately picking up a 5-second penalty for speeding. But that's exactly what Jarno Wotmir needs. Now that drops Patrick Sipos really out of his contention. He's now pushing up to the rear Brendan Lee now. He doesn't have the same pressure behind. He's got Danny Beresne about 6/10 back, but now he needs to get after him now. Brendan Lee, he's got a lot of ERS, 84% in the battery for Brendan Lee, so expect an attack at some point from this man. He's got lots to use, and he's now trying to get after Sebastian Job at the moment. Lap 11 of 27, about to head onto lap 12 of 27, and it's still Freddie Rasmussen. He's led every single lap of this race, from Barry Borman, from Lucas Blakely, from Sebastian Job, and from Brendan Lee. And then the first of the medium runners is Jarno Wotmir in P6. Will he respond to Sipos? Does he need to? He may be able to go longer here. Decides to stay out, and now will continue on his way. Doesn't want to stay on those hards for too long, of course, as they get towards that phase of the race. But it is still a DRS train. Not much movement happening with Samuel Bain. He's peeling in on his hard tyres, and he'll be, by the looks of it, fitting on a set of the medium tyres to go to the end of this race. So they're trying to make use of these mediums. What's on the mediums indeed for Aston Martin, and that's going to be a long stint on those for those guys. So let's see what happens here. But still no movement up the front. Rasmussen still in control and still managing his ERS.
Yeah, Freddie Rasmussen doing a great job at the moment. He's led every lap so far in this race, and he's still got plenty of battery despite leading the entire way. Barry Borman with very similar levels there in that 60 to 70% range. Same goes for Brendan Lee. A little bit less for Lucas Blakely, a little bit less so for Sebastian Job, and Brendan Lee has got the most out of all of them, 87% in that battery. If he can utilise that to overtake Sebastian Job, it's going to be very little offence for the AlphaTauri driver. And just look at the run that Brendan Lee has had in comparison to Sebastian in towards Alboreto off the exit of Ascari. I think Sebastian Job has just been able to pull that gap ever so slightly, but we'll see what he can do. As in towards now Alboreto, the final corner around this track. Will Brendan Lee finally pull the trigger and go for an overtake? He fakes going into the box. He stays out once again, as so does Jarno Wotmir. 12 laps on this set of the medians. They're getting on in ages. Now actually Brendan Lee is losing time to Sebastian, who's going for the move potentially. on Lucas Blakely is in towards the braking zone to no avail. Thomas Ronhard gets by him. Fabrizio Donoso has just been sinking like a stone in this race. He's now down into P9. Ronhard up into 8th, and he is having a decent day. Been quiet for him, but at least he's been able to make overtakes.
Yeah, you have to think Jarno looks like he's trying to look after those mediums as much as possible. Is he trying something really out there? Do you think he's going to go for softs at the end and manage these tires as much as he possibly can, and see if he can swap to the softs? It'd be a great if he can manage to do that. He'll be rapid at the very end of this Grand Prix, but he's got to look after those tires. Seems to be doing that so far. Still sticking with Brendan Lee, who's heading down towards Ascari there. But Brendan Lee looks like the quickest man at the moment. He's managing his ERS very nicely. Nearly has a full charge to compete with, as does Lucas Blakely at the moment, as does Barry Borman, as well Freddie Rasmussen does as well. They've all managed it very nicely. Who's going to be the first to pull the trigger in this lead train? Who will come into the pits first in this train? Nobody looking like they're going to come in just yet. No moves being made, because moves cost you time. Heading into the pit lane now, Sebastian Job is the first to pull the trigger. Into the pit lane comes the AlphaTauri, who's had a great run so far in this race, and he will now swap onto a new set of tyres as Barry Borman now swaps to the lead of the Grand Prix. No fight up put up by Freddie Rasmussen. Barry Borman leads the Italian Grand Prix for the first time.
And I think that the move from Sebastian Job is inspiring all the other drivers. They need to come into the pits this time. We've seen Altmir and Jake Benham take these mediums. 13 laps in this race. They can go another 15 in this Grand Prix, I believe, especially when you're lighter on fuel towards the end of the race. You're not putting as much wear onto the tyres, as Samuel Bain goes quickest of the bunch. He's the fastest man out on circuit at the moment. Patrick Saipos has come out behind Sebastian. We can actually just have a look at them here as through Carver Grande they go. The warm-up on the medium tyres is going to be quite tricky to compete with the hard, so we'll see if Saipos can close that gap, but I don't believe so. However, though, the undercut has worked out for the Hungarian. He is now right on the rear of Sebastian Job. We'll watch the leaders as Frederick Rasmussen is closing to the back of Barry Borman, who's now been able to take the lead of this Grand Prix. So now is McLaren, Red Bull, McLaren as they drive down towards Alboreto. Are they going to make the pit stops? We're headed up towards the halfway point of this race. Will we see the hard runners come into the box? Indeed we do. Freddie, Lucas and Brendan all into the pit lane. Barry Borman staying out here. Jarno Opmeer on his 14 lap old medium compound of tyre is the fastest man out on circuit at the moment. He has just set the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. He's got 13% in the battery, so it's safe to say he's pushing very hard, but that is still very promising for Jarno there.
It really is. Now we got to watch to see where does Sebastian Job filter out in all this. He went for an undercut. Here they go towards turn 1. Here comes the flying AlphaTauri. There he goes past Lucas Blakely and slots in behind Freddie Rasmussen. Great strategy called by Sebastian Job, and he's going to be as well. Saipos as well going to get through on Lucas Blakely as well. He does come out in front and just behind Brendan Lee as well as they come around the Curva Grande. Now net P2 for Sebastian Job. Sipos net P3, but of course he has got the penalty. Blakely now on the attack on the inside into the rectifield. He needs to get that move done. He does. Rasmussen gets a penalty through the first net race leader. Then Danfield is Sebastian Job right now.
Oh, Sebastian Job. He's made this undercut strategy work to perfection. Freddie Rasmussen with a 3-second time penalty, and given how close this field has been, I dare to say that could actually end his championship hopes tonight. Really unfortunate for Freddie if he's not able to capture this win. Meanwhile, Brendan Lee has got his tyres up to temperature. Patrick Saipos struggling at the moment as he's lost that position through Ascari of all places. Very difficult to run side by side through there, and Danny Berejne wants to bite at the cherry. I think Saipos is just he's burnt his resources way too early here. Barry Borman and Fabrizio Donoso have both come into the pit lane here, so now all the drivers yet to pit are the two Mercedes, Jarno Opmeer and Danny Morello, and then Jake Benham, the leading two on the set of the medium compound tyres. That begs the question: are they thinking about going from mediums to soft here?
It could be, and well, it was net race leader for just a lap, but Barry's managed to come out in front of them. That small battle has cost him now, but here comes Rasmussen. He's trying to get this done around Curva Grande, around the outside, in towards the Rettifilio. He still wants this. He could get the penalty removed, remember. In towards the Rettifilio, inside line for Rasmussen, and he takes the lead, the net race lead for now. Sebastian Job just behind as well. Does he fancy a move? He's attacking Boorman, who defends into Lesmo 1. Had a chance. Barry shut the door now. Lesmo 2 comes up. Barry still on the defensive, trying to get temperature in the tyres and still having to defend. Rasmussen now is trying to break away from Barry down towards the Ascari chicane they'll come. I think Barry's just going to have enough ERS to defend with here. Job on the absolute attack, and he split the McLarens in this race and then made this very, very interesting nonetheless. This is going to help Otmir though. They're fighting so hard. Otmir now the race leader for the moment, staying out on his medium. Sure, they're going to go for softs here as they come into the pit lane now. Danny Moreno pitting from P3, but remember he's way out of sync compared to everyone. But round they come, around Alboreto for the 17th time. Rasmussen in the race lead with the penalty though. Burman behind, but now Blakely is now going to try and attack Sebastian Job down towards turn 1. There's nothing really he can do. He hasn't got the battery charge. Barry giving him his teammate the slipstream. Barry looking at the inside of Rasmussen, a big dive on his teammate as well. In towards turn 1. Blakely getting the job done. Barry leaves him just enough space. Job goes through. What a great job from them. But that has given Freddie Rasmussen a bit of an opportunity to go now. But now the two championship rivals, somehow the McLarens have come through full circle back to second and third.
Nice move from Lucas Blakely to send it up the inside of Sebastian Job. He almost overtook his teammate there, but I think out of just respect as Brendan Lee almost having an off down at the second part of the Della Roggia chicane. He's been able to rejoin where he was, but that was a heart and mouth moment for the Ferrari driver. Lucas Blakely though is into the net P3. When is Otmir and Benham going to come into the pits? We know these two have a very good relationship. I'd imagine they're probably in a Discord call together, just working this strategy out. Finally, Jarno Otmir decides to come into the box, and you gotta expect this will be a set of these soft compounder tyres, making the medium soft work in this race. It's certainly an interesting one. We don't typically see softs in race trim, but these guys, they're the contrarians. They know that they can make it work, and I don't doubt the knowledge of Jarno Otmir, of course, a 4-time PSGL champion, a 2-time F1 Esports World Champion. He's going to rejoin this race, be overtaken by the train. I think will filter out just ahead of Wilson Hughes. It seems like he's in behind that Ferrari car. Can he make the move up the inside? We've seen this done before, but I don't believe so. No, Jarno Otmir has to settle for P11 at the moment, and we'll see how he gets these tyres up to temperature and where he can go in this race.
Yeah, he's got a mammoth task ahead of him though now. Soft tyres, he's in P11. Championship rivals are up in second and third, but he has got the fastest compound of tyre available. Brendan Lee is trying desperately to get past Sebastian Job, but he can't find a way through after that moment he had early on. Lap 18 of 27, it's still Rasmussen in the lead, and we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be a penalty for perhaps a double or a triple warning. Can he get that removed afterwards in the steward's room? But now Otmir needs to get his head down, but Fabrizio Donoso, he's getting his head down, trying to get past Patrick Sipos, who's the only car on the hard tyres right now, trying something else. He went medium hard, and Otmir decided to go medium to soft. But now, how's this going to end? Barry Boorman in second place, Lucas Blakely in third. Championship rivals, remember as well, this will extend Barry's lead. Lucas will want to lead the championship going into the next round as well, but they've got to think about the constructors title as well. If they stay where they are, they've got it wrapped up easily heading into the last 2 rounds. But there is not long left in this Grand Prix in these last few laps. Remember it now, Patrick Sipos as well has a penalty, but Donoso has a penalty. So Jarno Otmir sits currently P9 on soft compound tyres, and tell you what, Danny Beresne is getting quite close to the rear of the Ferraris.
And he tried it. I respect that, because it is very scary to try and make an overtake down in towards the first corners. And Danny Beresne, he had to think about it. I think he would definitely sent that move if Brendan Lee didn't defend to the inside line, and I really do respect these two. Of course, they've got so much experience in F1 Esports. Jake Burnham, his strategy is not really going too well for him. He's picked up a 3-second time penalty, but I respect the hell out of these two for being in F1 Esports for so long and still being able to compete at this level. Brendan Lee is, of course, a two-time champion. He won the inaugural season in 2017 and then the follow-up year in 2018. Danny Berger has been a factor since 2018 as well. So these guys have really just been competing at the top, and they have not lost that edge. All these young guns have come in and are competing with them, but they do not care. They are still in their primes. However, though, they're not fighting for the lead at the moment. That spot belongs to Freddie Rasmussen, Barry Borman and Lucas Blakely, and I think Lucas has an opportunity to go for a move on his teammate as they file down towards the first corner, all slipstreaming off each other. Can any of them try and make a move? I think just with the DRS train, it's so difficult to actually make an overtake. Can Brendan Lee possibly get close to the back of Sebastian Job? Not quite this time by Patrick Saipos and Fabrizio Donoso having a scrap at the moment. Maybe Jan Ortmir can stick a nose in there, and indeed he does. He looks to the outside line at Curva Grande, trying to make a move on Fabrizio Donoso. This is for P10, a points paying position for the Dutchman, as now they're level pegging, headed in towards the chicane. Patrick Saipos moving over to block. They're going to be 3 wide through here. 3 into 1 does not go. Ortmir to the outside of the pair of them. What a move from the Dutchman. He's overtaken them both and caught Patrick Saipos sort of napping at that point, and a fantastic move from the Dutchman. He's up into P9 and he can really get this strategy well and truly underway.
That deserves respect. That was a hell of an overtake from Jarno Watmir. 2 cars into the Della Roggia chicane and threw it round the outside of turn 3. He had a lot of trust in Patrick Sipos and Fabrizio Donoso to give him the space. That is a hell of an overtake from Jarno Watmir, and now up to P9 he goes. Now, while we were talking, Sebastian Job gets a penalty, 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. So that's going to cost him a lot of places. 3 seconds is a lot of time around Monza as they cross the line to get another lap around Monza. Indeed, lap 21 of 27. There is still plenty to happen in this Grand Prix. It's all quiet up the front, but Jarno Watmir up to P9 now. That's worth 2 championship points. Any points would be worth it to keep himself, at least try to keep himself in it. Now Jake Benham was on the softs as well, trying to get past Wilson Hughes at the same time that Donoso's trying to get past as well. Very, very close between Wilson Hughes and Jake Benham on the way through the first chicane onto the power. The softs will have the superior traction, and he will just nip in for just about Wilson Hughes, trying to get through, not able to do that. Jake Benham now having to try and go on the defensive as Donoso and Sipos go at it in front. Has to give up the position. Jake Benham up to P12, continues on his run on the soft tyres, but that little battle there that has lost Sipos and Donoso and co the DRS to the cars in front, which is not ideal for them. Next up on Jarno Watmir's list is Joni Tormala, who's running really well in P8.
Yeah, I think it's been a good day for Joni Tormala. Jarno Watmir, though, trying to make this strategy work to perfection. Certainly a ballsy strategy for the Dutchman, but if anyone can make it work, it is the 2-time F1 Esports champion Patrick Saipos. Unfortunately getting a 3-time penalty through Ascari now, and they are well and truly off the pace at this point as Thomas Ronhart, a driver we've not seen too much of so far this race. He started P10, quietly made his way up into 7th. He could still factor in to this Grand Prix. He's got slightly fresher tyres than the rest of the train in front of him. I wonder if he'll be able to overtake Danny Berger anytime soon as they head down towards now the first corner. We've still got Freddie Rasmussen leading this race. Patrick Saipos and Fabrizio Donoso once again fighting into the first corner. Saipos, I think, finally has to concede as, oh dear, an Alfa Romeo car's gone straight on there. That's Tomek Paradzic having to cut over the chicane. He rejoins the circuit in P15 ahead of Michael Romanidis. Let's check back in with Thomas Ronhart because he is closing to the back of Danny Berger, and he's got a much better run through the Della Roggia chicane. Can't quite make an overtake off the exit. There was no real gap for him to actually look for, but I think he's finding pace and he's factoring in well. He's phasing into this race, and possibly on this straight, can he use the DRS and the battery to try and find an overtake on Danny? I don't believe so. He's got Joni Tormala in behind him, and then Jarno Watmir also looking for an opportunity, but it seems like Berger is beginning to struggle.
Yeah, it seems to me at the moment he's just dropping off the back of Brendan Lee a little bit as well. So Ronar on a good run here. See if he can get himself a little ways further up the order. Opmir not using too much of his battery, sitting behind, looking after the tyres for now. And needs to look after those softs to make sure they get towards the end. Jake Benham getting in front of Patrick Sipos now as they now head onto the back straight. There's a bit of an attack starting to come from Lucas Blakely and from Barry Borman using the ERS down the straight. Rasmussen knows and he's trying to defend in towards turn 1. Barry trying to move to the inside, maybe. No, going to sit behind behind again, doesn't want to take the lead too early, but you can see he's just showing himself. He's letting him know he is there. He'll get it on penalties anyway, but they can't be sure that it won't get removed, so they need to make sure they get track position. And if anything, he needs to make sure that he makes the gap to get Lucas through as well, as they fight for position behind in the championship. Remember, these two are championship rivals, and Lucas said last week, there's no team orders once it gets to the fighting end.
Absolutely, and I would really love to see these guys battle hell for leather with each other. The two McLaren drivers have been so consistent this season. It looks like it's going to be another victory for the team from Woking, as Sebastian Job, once again, you mentioned it, he's driving certainly at the rear of the car, and he's done it once again. He's almost spun through Lesmo too. He's been able to save the car and not actually lose too much time through there. We've got 5,128 viewers in the live chat at the moment. Thank you for the immense support on the PSGL streams. If you're enjoying this race, make sure you subscribe, hit the big red button below this stream. You cannot miss it, and you can enjoy all of the action. PSGL racing almost every day, both on the PC and the PlayStation platforms. Also follow us on Twitter at Premier Sim Gaming Leagues for all of the updates as we head down on towards lap number 24. The race is beginning to wind down, and we have got all these drivers still fighting it in the train. Look at how close this field spread is. Actually, I could bring up the gap to the leader in just a moment's time and see how close everyone is. Realistically, everyone is still tight-knit with each other, except for Liam Parnell, who's not been able to make these hard work.
No, he's down at about 5.7 seconds off the back of Danny Moreno, who's the last running car in that train. But this is going to kick off with, you'd imagine this is going to be another Bahrain situation. Last lap overtake into turn one for Barry to try and take the victory here on Freddie Rasmussen. That's exactly what happened at Bahrain between these two. There wasn't any penalties involved, but now it seems to me that Rasmussen, unless he can get it removed, of course, I've got to keep that in mind, that he could take a victory here. But Lucas, of course, if he manages to get himself in front of Barry, finishing second and Barry in third, that would put Lucas in the lead of the championship by a single point, going with 2 rounds left to go. So this is very, very interesting stuff. Jarno Watmere not making progress in P9, but he's not pushing either. Sector 3, we have got a yellow. That is Jake Benham, who's spun. Now he's still going, but that is not what he needed on the soft tyres, and they'll be absolutely cooked as well going through there. So that hasn't quite worked for Jake Benham as he continues on. But now lap 25 and 27, the laps are ticking down. They're running out of time, and Jarno Watmere is on a little bit of a defensive here from Fabrizio Donoso as well. But again, there's still 84% battery for Jarno to use, so you'd expect maybe a big push towards the end, but it's looking like the championship fight just starting to slip out of his hands a little bit with 2 rounds to go after this one. Still going to be mathematically in it, but it's going to be a huge task. It looks like it's going to be a Barry versus Lucas into the last 2 rounds. But on course right now, we've got to mention it as well. Constructors title currently in the bag for McLaren if they finish exactly where they are right now with Freddie in front. The next closest team is Red Bull, and they're currently 1st and 19th, so only 16 points going to be going Freddie Rasmussen's way if he stays where he is, and the penalty is removed, of course, so still plenty that can happen. Lap 25 and 27, no moves being made, but you just sort of feel it's about to get very, very hectic.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can sense some moves trying to be made as they head on towards the penultimate lap of this race. Freddie Rasmussen still leading. He's led the majority of this race, and he's been so commanding today, and I think he is well and truly deserving of this race win. However, Barry Bromand and Lucas Blakely could have something to say about it, as on to the start-finish straight for the penultimate time as they head down towards the first corner. Barry Bromand in the wheel tracks of the Red Bull. Can he try and make a move in towards now turn number 1? Freddie Rasmussen defending to the inside. He has to look the long way around. Does Barry Bromand in towards locking up the Rettavillio chicane. He can't quite find the opportunity this time by possibly down in towards Della Roggia. He might actually have to defend from Lucas Blakely as they file down now the Curva Grande. Freddie Rasmussen, he defended that well, but how much longer can he hold off the steaming McLaren driver as they head down in towards the chicane? It looks like to me, Jack, that Freddie Rasmussen is just going to be able to hold off Barry Burman for the time being.
Yeah, because there's only going to be 1 more lap to go next time across the line, and there's actually Freddie has more battery to try and defend with. But this will be a hell of a drive. It could be a lights to flag for Freddie Rasmussen at Monza, but let's wait and see what happens in this last lap and a half to go. Barry closing up very, very much into Ascari. Let's see, will Lucas lead the championship? Will Barry lead the championship, and by how much as they come up towards the last corner for the final time? Curva Alboreto, been a great Grand Prix at Monza. This is going to be the climax to it here. There is a penalty, but it could be removed. Barry versus Lucas versus Freddie for the win at Monza here at the Temple of Speed. Round the last corner for the second to last time. Onto the final lap then. Into the wheel tracks goes Barry Boorman. Now desperately defending is Freddie Rasmussen down towards turn 1. He's got more battery to use. Here comes Barry Boorman towards turn 1. Hooks the inside as Freddie Rasmussen round to the outside line now. Tries to go all the way around, but Freddie leaves him room to the inside. Going to squeeze him to the inside. And through he goes. Going to be contact there. Lucas and Barry's into the wall. It's a huge one. Barry is out of the Italian Grand Prix on the final lap of the race. Unbelievable season in Italy. What has happened there? Lucas Blakely leads the Grand Prix. Brendan Lee up to second place. That is a huge moment in the championship. Out of the Grand Prix with just a lap to go. Huge moment in the championship. Lucas Blakely will lead the championship if he manages to hang on for just another half a lap to go. Lucas Blakely from Brendan Lee, from Sebastian Job is the current order. Will it change towards the end now? That is a humongous title-changing moment for Barry Boorman. Rasmussen getting together with him on the exit, but it has all gone in favour of this man. But will there be enough now? Brendan Lee is challenging him. Down towards the last corner they will go. Will there be a late twist in the tail, an even later twist in the tail? Round towards the Curva Alboreto for the final time of asking. It's been a crazy Grand Prix, a title-changing Grand Prix. Your new championship leader, your winner in Italy, Lucas Blakely, wins the Italian Grand Prix and takes the championship lead. Brendan Lee second, Danny Berezne finishing on the podium, and in the end it's 6th place for Jarno Watmir. In the end, what a Grand Prix. Barry Boorman, non-finish in the Italian Grand Prix. Lucas Blakely leads the championship by 15 points.
Oh my word. I'm almost lost for words as to what we've just witnessed there. Barry Boorman, you really have to feel for him at this point. But I saw in the live chat on the penultimate lap that I think it was Joshua Birch, one of our commentators in F4. He said that Lucas is waiting for contact between Freddie and Barry, and I just thought, no, they're not going to do it. They're not going to have contact. You know, they're at such a high level, and then they actually have. I mean, that is championship defining at the end of the day. I mean, Barry Boorman may have just lost the title tonight. He's going to be, 14 points behind Lucas Blakely by the end of this evening, or is it 15 points actually? He'll be 15 points back headed in towards the final 2 rounds. And if Lucas just continues with the performances he's having as of recent, Barry's not going to be able to close that gap. He may have lost the title there. However, whilst the title for the driver standings is still ongoing, we have to talk about the constructors, because I believe they have done it. And McLaren are your constructors championship in PSGL season 31.
Yeah, you just got to think, though, if that was even closer at Red Bull, that could have extended the Constructors' Championship by another round or two. That was mental. But at the end of the day, Lucas Blakely picked up the pieces and drove through to take the victory in the end in Monza and the championship lead by 15 points. Would you have expected it going into today? Would you have expected it on the last lap there? Brendan Lee, though, excellent drive. P2 at home for the Tifosi, and a great performance by Danny Berezne as well to take a provisional podium. Let's see if Sebastian Job gets it removed. That would have been a podium for Sebastian Job if he'd managed to hang on to it. But what an ending. What an ending to a crazy Grand Prix. There it is. Lucas Blakely taking the victory by 0.4 of a second is all it was in the end, ahead of Brendan Lee. Danny Berezne coming through to take third, and great performance by Thomas Ronnar, 4th place, and a great job by Joni Tormala for a top 5 from 14th on the grid to take 5th place. Jarno Watmir, the softs didn't quite work out, P6. Sebastian Job with the penalty, P7. Wilson Hughes, P8. Michael Romanidis, what a quiet race, P9 for Aston Martin. More points on the board for Aston Martin from 17th on the grid. Great drive from Michael Romanidis, and with the penalties for Fabrizio Donoso, he finishes in P10. Final points going to Ferrari. Would you have expected it? McLaren with the Constructors' title in the end, but Lucas Blakely, new championship leader by 15 points, going in with 2 more rounds to go. That's a humongous advantage.
Absolutely, and I'm seeing people asking for a replay. Unfortunately, we can't show a replay. The F1 game just doesn't work that way. However, you will be able to see it on the PSGL Twitter. I'd imagine in the next few minutes, Lucas Blakely wins this race. Brennan Lee is in third. Danny Beresnay taking third. You can see the rest of the order on your screen. But that brings us to the end of what was, let's say, an eventful Italian Grand Prix, and I think I much prefer it to the last time that we were here in season 29. But wow, what an ending. I mean, you really do have to feel for Barry Burman. I think that's another point that I have to bring up, is that please, everyone in the live chat, no matter where your biases lie, please be respectful to both Freddie and Barry here, because at the end of the day, it is just league racing. This is nothing serious. These guys don't lose anything by not winning in PSGL tonight. So please don't take any anger out that you may have on Freddie or Barry, because this stuff does just happen. So please, we do need to be respectful. And I'm seeing there's been some abuse for Freddie, there's been some abuse for Barry, and I just really think it's unnecessary. So please, everyone, I ask you now to be respectful.
Yeah, I echo that absolutely. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that. But at the end of the day, it's Lucas Blakely's day. 15-point advantage going into the final 2 rounds, and the first DNF, the first non-score for Barry Burman this season. That's a DNF on the final lap. So what an ending! What a crazy ending! Nobody could have predicted that. Jarno, we're finishing in P6 in the end, so getting 5 points out of that as well. So still in it with Barry's DNF, of course, but the gap to Lucas would have extended by some margin as well. So he is going to have a mountain to climb with 2 rounds to go. But it's all looking like it's going Lucas Blakely's way at the moment. It's almost like the parting of the seas in front of him, and drove straight past as Freddie and Barry fought it out with each other. Just looked like, I haven't seen it again, but it just looked like front to rear contact, and which is unlucky. As they were fighting for position, and unfortunately Barry just got speared into the wall. Really unlucky that he got a DNF out of that as well, because Rasmussen actually managed to carry on, but Barry just hitting the wall the wrong way, broken the front suspension, and that was it.
Yeah, this stuff does happen, unfortunately, and Barry's just got to recover from it and try and come back stronger, because he has, as you said, got a mountain to climb now. He's 15 points back, headed in towards the final race of the season. That, of course, racing for McLaren. He's not had a good evening today. However, the team has done so, and it's of course because McLaren F1 team have won your PSGL Season 31 Constructors Championship. Lucas Blakely and Barry Burman have been insanely close this season, but they have been right at the top of the order every single race. There's only been one Grand Prix on this calendar that was not won by a McLaren, so these two are deserving Constructors champions, and you really do have to congratulate them.
Yeah, you really do. It's been a solid performance all the way through from them. A domination, except for the US Grand Prix, to which they finished second in anyway. But it's been an unbelievable performance. I think one of the most dominant displays actually since we started in PC. Of course, we had Mercedes as well, but this is sort of a Mercedes-esque performance from them. But McLaren, totally deserving of it. So they've got the constructors under wraps, and now they could have the drivers under wraps too. Lucas versus Barry, it seems to be, for the last 2 rounds, and as we can see, it could be anyone's. All it takes is one instant, and it all changes in a blink of an eye, so quickly. But Lucas Blakely leads the championship for the first time since the start of the season, and we'll see if he can hang on to that 15-point advantage with 2 rounds left. Obviously, the scoring system is different here in PSGL. It's 16 points for a win. He's almost a race in front all of a sudden by 1 instant.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just so insane how quickly things can change in league racing and in PSGL. And I'm still in shock as to what happened there. I mean, my heart dropped, I think, when they made contact, and I was really upset to see actually that it did end up in an incident, because I would have loved to see a final lap scrap between all 3 of the drivers in that podium fight. But it was not meant to be. Hopefully we can get some interviews now. And Jack, can you check the waiting room and see if we have any of our podium sitters in that waiting room?
We do indeed. We have our P1 and P2 people, so
Perfect.
you've got your pick. Let's drag them in.
Let's drag them in indeed, and we'll head to the interview room. We get to talk to the men who finished P1 and P2. Brendan Lee and Lucas Blakely, how are you two doing today?
Terrible.
Even more terrible.
Okay, I wasn't actually expecting that response. Unfortunately.
Well, when you get Brendan and I in the same call, then I mean, hey, you've got absolutely anything that could happen. So,
When are we getting the pizza in?
5 minutes.
Pizza.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's a tradition. After race, we get a pizza.
Okay,
You get the Domino's, I'll get the Ben and Jerry's. So.
It might be a bit of a far delivery to Italy, but we can do it. It'll turn up next week.
There
Yeah,
better
I'll
be
do
no pineapple on any of the
Oh no,
pizzas.
100% pineapple.
Nah.
100%.
Okay, we can agree on that. Good.
No, I have the power to kick you out of the call, Brendan. So I think we should get
Do it
this.
then.
I think we should get this interview underway before I end up shouting at you. Let's talk to you first and talk about your qualifying. Of course, you topped Q1. You weren't able to quite capture pole by the end of it. Let's just say what there was left on the table for you.
Well, there was about 160 frames per second left on the table. Of course, there's this exploit going around the community right now. But from what my understanding is, Codemasters are working very hard to fix it behind the scenes. So it should be fixed by an unannounced championship starting. Yeah. So I don't see a point in running the 60 frames per second. All it does is make you faster for a few weeks, and then it should be back to normal.
Fair enough then. It's good to see that you're sticking to the high FPS. I mean, that is just, I think it's supremacy to go with high FPS rather than subjecting yourself to going down to 60. I mean, it's such a huge difference between 200 and then or 240, however much you're running, and then it's 60 frames per second. But let's talk about your race. You were running quite close behind Sebastian Job, and we saw him twitching quite a lot. Were there any opportunities that you thought maybe you could have gone for that move a little bit earlier?
Yeah, well, I mean, Sebastian did a really good job on the undercut. I was really surprised. I saw when I came out the box as well, he was slightly lower by about 30-40% on battery. So I tried to go for the move initially, but he did a really good job defending. Was aggressive, fair, and clean as well from him. So that sort of nullified my early stint opportunity on the mediums. But I saved up all my battery to try and go through at the end, and I was able to get him on the start of the final lap. Of course, then some very spicy memes unfolded right in front of us, and yeah, was able to pick up P2 from that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about that incident. What do you think of it from your point of view there?
I think great content, to be honest. It's got to be at least 50k views on YouTube.
Absolutely.
It's got to be a few thousand on TikTok, depending how it feels, and Instagram a few thousand as well.
Fair enough. I mean, PSGL is going to be in a great position no matter what happens, because of course all of the viewers in the live chat love to see high drama on a Wednesday evening. Brendan, thank you for joining us in the commentary box. I've got no more questions for you, and I'll let you get away and enjoy your evening and enjoy your
Cheers, guys.
your pineapple pizza.
Hell yeah! Right. Thank you very much. Catch you next time. Ciao. Bye.
See you. So that was Brendan Lee, the man who finished in P2 today. He was better than everyone else this evening, aside from one driver, and that is Lucas Blakely, taking victory in very interesting circumstances. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, I mean, it was... Wait, is my mic on? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, oh good, sorry. Yeah, so naturally it's not the way I want to win at the end of the day. You want to win, by being the car 100% ahead all the time, but like, yeah, I'm sorry to what happened, I guess, on the last lap between Barry and Freddie. It was a tight race all the way up until that point, really intense, and it was, I don't think that's the way any of us wanted it to fully end, and I'm obviously happy that I won the race, but you would always want it to be under a cleaner circumstance. But yeah, to run through events, qualifying was pretty okay. Not going to complain far too much because this track is an absolute, stressful one in qualifying to get absolutely nailed. So yeah, I mean the lap, you're always going to have shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I mean I'm happy that I put a lap in that put me near the front. And yeah, from there I was really happy with my race. I think I drove very well in the race. I had 0 warnings, which allowed me to be quite aggressive towards the latter end of the race. yeah, it was tricky because at the beginning I had a really good start, but I didn't want to go side by side with Barry and then lose all the time. But then we fell out of DRS because of that. So yeah, we had to play a long game of catch up. So I was kind of like a sitting duck for a while in P2. Helped Barry charge his battery, and then yeah, we charged through. And yeah, the pit stop phase was critical because I actually rejoined behind Sebastian, but also behind Cipos. So I had to immediately repass Cipos, otherwise it was kind of race over. And yeah, then rejoined. Yeah, it was behind a few people, but I had to make my way past Sebi, and I had to fight my way forward. So I mean, I'm happy with the position I sort of put myself in. And yeah, I mean, I just tried to. Yeah, I think regardless maybe of the contacts between Barry and Freddie at the end, I did have the switchback line, so I was going to get a better exit, but then we never. I mean, it didn't matter anyway because they ended up getting sort of demon dragged against each other, which was a massive shame. But yeah, and I believe we've won the constructors championship. If I am maybe correct in saying, I don't know if you can confirm that. Yes, I mean that's yeah, I guess that's something pretty cool. To do that with, I guess, 2 rounds to go or whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's obviously a bigger fish that all the esports drivers are looking to focus on at the moment. But it's still, yeah, I'd be lying to say if it wasn't nice to see that sort of thing. So yeah, big GG to, I guess, Barry as well to bring that constructors home for the league. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I was just chaos. Monza's always chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, I don't know if you were racing. You might have actually been racing with us for season 29, Monza. That was certainly.
Oh, that one. I think I was absent that week. I was doing other stuff, I believe, that day, and thankfully it didn't do anything. So.
I mean, that was certainly an interesting one. I know that George Morgan is watching, and I know he's got a smirk on his face at the moment. But
outrageous, absolutely outrageous.
It's
Diabolical.
Diabolical. So now moving on to the last 2 rounds of the season, Lucas. You have the fight for the World Drivers' Championship for the Drivers' Championships in the palm of your hand. What's the strategy coming into these last 2 races?
Pretty similar, I guess, to the way we've done it so far. I mean, obviously, next round is Imola now, I believe, correct? I don't know if it is Imola or if it's not, or
Yep,
I believe so. So that's going to be interesting, is all I'll say. And then, yeah, the final round, I believe, is Brazil. So, truth be told, I'm not exactly sure how these rounds will go, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just going to turn up and do the best with whatever I've got, basically. So that's really about it. I mean, today was. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's all this talk about FPS, all this jazz, and naturally I'm seeing unbelievable things. Like, oh my god, that's the reason these people are quick, but honestly, people have no idea what they're talking about, quite frankly. But yeah, it's I hope that gets fixed soon as well. It's so much nicer to drive on a thing that isn't a slideshow, so that's ideal. But yeah, look forward to the coming rounds, and yeah, I don't really know what else to add. Just yeah, good day, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear it, and I'm glad that you ended up with the win. Maybe not in the fashion that you would have liked to, but of course, a win is a win, and I think you've got to be I think you got to be happy with that one there. So we'll let you get away and enjoy that one, and we hope to see you in the last 2 rounds of PSGL Season 31. We hope to see you back in the commentary box, and we can have some more interviews with you and hopefully your main title rival, Barry Burman. Wishing the best for you, Lucas. Thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate it, and yeah, thanks for your time, and hope everyone enjoyed the race watching. Take care, have a great rest of your evening, and yeah, wish you all the best. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much to our race winner, Lucas Blakely. He won it in certainly some interesting circumstances, but I think nevertheless he's got to be pleased with that one.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, a win is a win, like you said to him. So I have done the calculations, how the championship has stood, provisionally, of course. There's still going to be, obviously, probably stewards and stuff. So it's now Lucas Blakely on 84 points. Barry Burman now still on 69 points, 15 points off the back. And Jarno Watmir is now 29 points off the championship lead, and there's a maximum of 34 points left. So it's
tough.
it's a bit of a uphill battle for Jarno from here. He's still mathematically in it, but you've sort of got to say it's going to be a bit of a tricky task. But he's still at the moment, from what I can see, he's still P3 in the title, but 29 points off the lead with 2 rounds to go, maximum of 34 points, winning fastest lap in both DNF for both McLarens. I mean, anything's possible.
Hey, I mean, well, if you think about it, I think I'd love to see Jarno Opmis still in the title fight by the last round of the season, because it'd sort of be the big three of the PSGL sort of era on PC. You know, in the first season, Jarno Opmis took victory. It was Barry Burmand that was his main title rival, and then Lucas Blakely was Jarno's main title rival in season 29, and then Barry Burmand was once again taking the fight to Jarno Opmis in season 30. It's like these big three all culminating together for one massive title scrap all together, and I also think it would look very good in a YouTube title. So I would love to see those guys fighting it out in the final race. However, we have one more round in between that. We have, of course, Imola up next week. It's a new circuit in regards to the rest of them. It only came out on the last game, and Jack, that's certainly going to provide some action for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard Lucas say it's going to be interesting. So we'll wait and see what he means by interesting. But as you can see, you know, we thought the race was said and done going into the last lap. We were going to think that Barry was going to win it, but because I looking at the standings coming in, there actually was a trend of wins of who won. It usually followed Barry Lucas, Barry Lucas, Barry Lucas, Barry Lucas, and it was almost going to be another Barry win until Lucas broke it. So he's gone back to back, which I think is he's the first person to win back to back this season. So Lucas played 2 wins back to back. I think he didn't get fastest lap, so not quite as perfect as he did last week, but 15 points. If he'd got the fastest lap, he would have been a full race in front going into this next one. 15 points. It's still surmountable for Barry. There's still 2 rounds left. As I said, maximum of 34 points available. So there's a lot that can happen. And as we saw today, one race can change it all. And let's see if it happens in Imola.
I'm very excited to see what happens next week. But I believe that is all that we have for this broadcast. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in today. I can confirm we peaked at 5,455 viewers, which is insane numbers to me. It's still all very new to me, so once again, a massive thank you as well to our title sponsors at GT Omega. If you want, you can see we've both got the chairs. If you want to buy your own, you can head to the link in the description and use code PSGL at checkout for 5% off, and I can confirm to you this is probably the most comfortable chair that I have ever sat in my life. Make sure as well you check out our socials, subscribe to the PSGL YouTube channel. It's the big red button beneath this stream. You cannot miss it. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PremierSimGL and join our Discord. The link should be in the description. You can find myself on Twitter at DanFieldF1_, and you can find Jack at JackCComms. Thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. Next week we head to Imola and we will have a fantastic title fight on our hands between Jarno Opmis, Barry Burmand and Lucas Blakely. But for now everyone, it is thank you and good night.
Broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega and Grid Rival, proudly supporting PSGL.